The following video contains content some viewers might find disturbing. The views and opinions expressed here are not facts and are nothing more than entertainment. The views and opinions are not facts and do not represent the views and opinions of Xirtus or our channel, and do not necessarily represent or reflect the views of the guests, YouTube, Google, mainstream media, society, or civilization at large, or anybody. Viewer discretion is advised.
Yo, what up? I'm Andreas, and Douglas is here, and so is Seth. How you doing?
Hello.
I don't know, because Bernie, I thought, was gonna be here. I called him. I see you now in the chat, Bernie. So if you're here, you're welcome.
Damn it, Bernie.
We're supposed to do this thing about Tartaria. You were gonna lay it down on us, but let us know if you're gonna get what it is. There's a couple things that we could talk about in the meantime, though. How have you guys been? First, what's up? What's your week's been like?
Great. I missed everybody. Missed the chat. Missed doing Ultra.
Right.
Happy to be back and talk about weird stuff.
My God. And Doug, yeah, what about you? What's up?
I second that notion. Absolutely. Yes, Seth, absolutely. I've missed everybody. It's a pleasure to be back with you
Doug,
all.
you look like the son of the Godfather right now. Like really, something more handsome, more intelligent looking.
Well,
about
no,
you.
it's all of a sudden I've been inspired. I've been brought to a certain
What is
situation.
the? Can I see the?
because you see
Oh
the-
my God! Oh, it's in it. Beautiful.
Pow,
Does
pow,
it say Tartaria?
pow. It does. It's the Tartaria dude attire.
How do you get that?
I got myself from, what is it? Well, there's a link. There should be a link somewhere that there are
Xirtus,
so
do
many
you sell
good
that?
color combinations.
Yeah, it's
Do
a
you sell
spring.
that, Xirtus?
Yeah, it's on the Xirtus spring.
Really?
Teespring.
Oh, I'm
Yeah.
gonna get one like that.
Oh my
Nice.
God, I think it looks better just because Doug's wearing it.
With a sport coat.
It's like much better than it does just online. It's
Super 80s.
beautiful.
It's super
Everybody in the
80s.
chat saying it's a sick shirt. Go get it.
I
Go
mean,
get a sick-
It's
really,
like-
with a
very-
blazer too.
It's like a
While you're
World
there,
Cup
get sweat
kind of jersey.
Xirtus emblazoned on the leg.
Dude, and like a Seth hat, like a VVDC. Well, yeah. Before, like, I have some things to think about, but like, what about your week? Did you guys anything weird happen that you want to cover before? Because I had a couple things I wanted to cover.
We
You guys-
made it through the week.
That's all. Okay, so did you hear about the guy, like the federal agents busted into the hotel room and it was the wrong hotel room?
No, I didn't hear that one.
This was a few days ago. So federal agents break into a hotel room and interrogate a man during a training exercise, and they're all upset at him. Like he doesn't even have his own guns. He doesn't know what he's doing. Like this is so.
They're like, if he says he's not part of the exercise, that's part of the exercise. Don't listen to him.
Right,
He's going to
was
try
this
to
in
tell you he's just a regular guy.
Was this in
He's going to
Peru?
deny this is a thing.
Make sure you continue waterboarding him no matter what.
Was this at least in New York City or something? No, this was in like Louisville, Kentucky. They had this like federal agent training thing at this decent guy's house apparently, and he didn't expect it. This reminds me of this Laurel and Hardy movie they made where they destroy a house. Do you guys remember Laurel and Hardy?
I do remember Laurel.
Oh yeah, of course.
Dude, who apparently were members of the water rats we found out with Thomas from Paranoid American, which is some sort of fraternal order. But yeah, the water rats, I forget.
All I remember is who's on first, what's on second.
Yeah, the water rats, it's like some sort of a Masonic organization that they were a part of. What's it called? It doesn't really matter. But the point was that wait, now I've lost exactly.
How are you going to do this training exercise in a hotel with people staying in on that floor? You'd think you'd have to have like a whole floor cordoned off or something. Imagine you just go out to get ice or a snack or something. Get down, get down.
There's a Laurel and Hardy where they buy a house and then they move into it and they destroy the house. And then when they finish filming it, they realized that they did it on the East Street instead of the West Street. So it was this new couple's home that they destroyed all of their real home. Yeah. So they had to pay for and reimburse them for all of their personal belongings that they destroyed in the process of it. But I feel like that's something that you would do if you wanted something to be real, right? And so this is very useful for federal officers training. I don't know. I don't want to say that this was completely intentional, but it does seem very strange. And then they called them later to say, yeah, no, sorry, that was us.
How long did they take to say, whoops?
Yeah, you know
we were in training.
They're like, this guy's an amazing actor. He's like peeing himself for real.
Super committed. You guys really went all out, huh, this year?
Here, I'll get
method.
Let's find the where is it here? ChatGPT can read more. There should be more of this one, but yeah, I want more of this article. Yeah, read this. Go ahead, Doug. Read that. Start with Boston.
Boston, the FBI and U.S. Army Special Operations Command accidentally raided the wrong hotel room during a joint exercise. Shit, guys. We mistakenly detained a paying guest. He was legit. Our bad. The Bureau confirmed agents from its Boston office had been aiding the Army with a training exercise, but received wrong information about which part of the hotel was included in this scenario. The man was wrongly detained. He was a Delta Airlines pilot. As it turns out, we delayed your flight as well, folks.
Oh my God.
Just to add insult to injury, we decided to go ahead and screw up your travel plans. Thank you for flying Boston.
But it turned out it wasn't as bad as it could have been. You can read the second part here.
According to CBS News, the FBI confirmed that the agents from its Boston office had been aiding the Army with the training exercise. I already read that part. Thankfully, nobody was injured, so nobody got shot. Okay, great.
That's the thing. So
you had the adult wherewithal to not pull the trigger. Way to go.
Emotional damage.
I mean, yeah, his door's messed up for sure.
Emotional.
Oh my God, yeah, it's like what the fuck? At what point in your life do you like? Is it like it's a sincere possibility that you shit yourself? Like, I mean, I don't
Maybe if
think
he
I'm
had
too
got
far
to
away
the
from it.
airport on time and flown that plane, it would have changed the whole course of history. So time travelers came back and gave the wrong room number to the FBI to like some Donnie Darko.
It is weird that he's a pilot, right? So he was a pilot.
That's weird.
Delta
yeah.
Airlines.
Yeah, that's so
Aren't you paying
weird.
attention? There's going to be a quiz.
What if he's
after
just
this.
buddies with the FBI agent and they were like, you know what? Let's just fuck up both of our days on purpose.
Pilot's
So
a pretty
we-
plugged-in career, right? Like, gotta be like,
yeah, they're flying.
I would love to
everybody
get
around the world.
any examples of the FBI doing anything right. Like, do they have any achievements or accomplishments ever?
yeah. Anyway, well, they did take over the
Untouchables
mafia.
is the
right?
only reference I have, and that's from
The
Hollywood.
Untouchables, yeah.
Yeah, they took over the mafia.
Well, the mafia was great. The mafia served a function in society, you know.
Yes, I know. Yeah,
Federalized
even
trash
then,
pickup
yeah,
that didn't
that's right.
prove anything.
That's right. That's
I
right.
just want to socialize it. I don't know. I mean, but so if this was an accident, either way, so the idea that there are these secret government training exercises that are going on in your home, in your neighborhoods, in your like
Sorry, sir. Just acts like this is real. Flashbang. Yeah.
What about? Do you remember during the beginning of the COVID lockdown? These people, I forget what state they're in. I think it's Kentucky. They were just out on their porch, and there was like, I think National Guard or the Army or something is just coming up the street, and they're get inside, light them up, and then they just start shooting this family with paintballs. They're on their own porch. It's crazy.
God. Yeah, the Boston thing was crazy because trying to get people inside, but that was also before quarantine. So it also felt like I think a kind of a weird social test. Like anytime, whether or not it's this intentional thing, either it could be that you're testing the limits of something. So at the time, they're like, what do we do if we need to get people to stay inside? Like, how do we make sure that they stay inside? Can we push people inside? And at the Boston scenario, it really wasn't that crazy, and they were making it seem like they needed to have the streets closed down for blocks and blocks. I mean,
this was in Boston, but this was related to the lockdowns, or this was related to
I thought we were talking about before the lockdowns with the marathon, Chechnya,
The Boston Marathon. Yeah.
Oh no. I'm not. I wasn't thinking of that at all. There was a viral video that at the beginning of the COVID lockdown that came out of a family,
right, with the tanks. Yeah, that's right.
I don't think they were tanks. I think it's just a battalion of troops walking down the street, and they were screaming at everyone to get inside, and they didn't go inside. They're like, "Are these guys joking?" And they were like, "Light them up!" and just started shooting them with paintballs as they're holding the camera, like first person view. It's super crazy, you know?
Yeah.
I just need everyone to watch that video and tell me if they support our great troops.
Well, I mean, because were those the troops or those just local police also?
Right.
I don't remember. I'm giving you total fake news.
Yeah.
But it was a real video. It really pissed me off. That's why they put it in my feed. The only reason they put anything on my feed is to piss me off.
Boston, light them up. It didn't show up, but I do remember it. It's like, is that really hidden that much? Light them up. Police.
Oh, there's like a band called Boston with a song called "Light 'Em Up" or something. How convenient.
I don't know. I can't find it now. Yeah, I remember that.
It's like when Biden gave away a bunch of crack pipes so that if you search for like Biden crack, you couldn't get the Hunter Biden video.
It just seems to me though the idea that there are these activities happening around us a lot it's important that we all recognize that, and it's just also super dangerous, and it's something to consider that they're always doing this. How is this protecting you? What are they emulating for? What are they training for? What kind of situations is this preparing for?
Right. I mean, what did Jefferson say about a standing military? You know, if you have a standing military, it's inevitably going to make an enemy out of the people.
Yeah, I think it was Hemingway.
Only the terrorists, though, like ones who say words like based.
I think it was Hemingway who said if a gun is introduced in the
Chekhov.
Is it like Chekhov with the gun? Okay. Chekhov, gun introduced first act, right? If a gun's introduced in the first act.
If a pistol is introduced, it must be fired, yeah.
Right.
Chekhov's gun.
Yeah, so that's probably the thing we should be more careful of. All right, how about ChatGPT's powered Furby toy, right? So there's this Furby. You could remember the situation with the Furby in the Pentagon, and they were trying to keep Furbies out of it. And
but before we switch on to that, could I just say one thing about Chekhov's gun, just to ask you guys a question? Do you think that the world actually operates that way, where things play out and acts like stories? I always made that assumption that art was imitating life, and I was like, "What are we in the first act right now?" I was like, "Are we in Empire Strikes Back, or are we in the end of Jedi?" You know what I mean? Like, do you think that life actually plays out that way in story arcs, or is that just
I don't take Chekhov's gun to mean that, but go ahead, Doug.
Well, go finish your thought. What do you think it means? Yeah,
I think it means that it's not really about the story, it's about the plot device, maybe, or the plot device. Like when something
so he was
exists,
speaking about I thought he was speaking about like the real world. Like if in the real world somebody has a gun, it's gonna get fired.
I think it's
interesting.
I think it's because of the logic of that something will be manifested if it can be, or if it exists, then it will be used. If a genie's in a bottle will be opened.
Right.
That kind of logic. So it's not just about a pistol, you know, it's like a bigger thing. It's that like if it can, it will.
Yeah, there's a mechanism to be used. We will use it at some point. Yeah,
that too, and humanity will be probably like part of the reason it happens. You know what I mean?
So to contradict that, there's some other famous authors who would introduce plot points and then just leave them open. Like what's his name, Murakami, the Japanese author. Everyone like he'll introduce a character and then it'll just be like, then they just disappear and never come back. And like, what happened to the girl he was dating? And she's like, no mention for the rest of the book or something. You know,
how like
things
life.
Just mean nothing. Yeah, exactly. It's much more like life.
Yeah, but there are moments where, like, you know, like Norwegian Wood, like she dies, you know, and his whole life is ruined by it, or something to that effect. So,
right, yeah,
you know, it's maybe better that he just has the good memories of people sometimes. Also,
right. I was thinking of a Wild Sheep Chase. That's I think that's the one where he's got a girlfriend, and they mention it. It's like, and then she left and never came back, and it's just like, what? You know, it's like that never happens in a book, you know.
Right.
Anyways, sorry, the Furby. Let's do Furbies.
Well, the Furby thing kind of weirds me out because I remember when we were young, the Furby was introduced, and there's like a Simpsons about it, the idea that it's a recording device, and I don't feel like it was really that big of a deal, but it also kind of introduced to the mainstream America this idea of surveillance, mass surveillance, home surveillance, and so it's associated with it's like Terminator to a lot of people as the Furby. They're like, oh, it's this cute evil Terminator. And so the idea that they're introducing a ChatGPT powered Furby so that kids can play with a Furby that will be able to know their name, have interesting conversations, and where this is going to lead dolls, right? Like the whole Small Soldiers movie, right? With the Gargons.
Great movie.
Oh, I didn't see that one.
Really? Small Soldiers.
So how does the Furby work?
Does it subversive summer film?
Yeah,
you really have a tiny microchip that records little bits of speech and repeats them or something? Or I'm thinking of Teddy Ruxpin. I'm not sure I know what a Furby is.
Well, it's with the Small Soldiers. That's it's very similar kind of plot device. They have a microchip that's super powered from the Pentagon. We try to.
It's army surplus, right?
Oh.
Yeah, they're like, what can we do with this chip we can't use anymore? Because it's like there's a more powerful chip this year. They're like, can you make it say mama? And so they like sell it to the toy company, but they put this super military AI into these toys.
Tommy Lee Jones is ruthless in this movie.
Yeah, I can see that as being like a really pretty real thing pretty soon. But the main thing is also just the amount of information it can get out of people because THX 1138, right? There's the priest, the confession booth. So in that movie, he goes to this little room and this little projection of Christ says, work hard, increase production, prevent accidents, and be happy. And he just confesses his sins to a recording.
In that order, my son. Yeah.
And I think that's like obviously like a metaphor that's very metropolis or surrealism.
It would be funny if we come back in 2,000 years and people are worshiping Furby.
I think, well, the thing is we already do. So you would tell things to Google search that you would never tell to a priest, you know what I mean? Or to your friend, your closest friend, or to any enemy. So the search engine quality, and I think I didn't quite talk that much about this, but Auto-GPT is this new autonomous GPT experiment that allows GPT. It's allowing GPTs to interact with GPTs, and if you think of GPT,
and remember,
this is like the guy when the guy does a prank call and puts one Chinese takeout on the phone with another Chinese takeout. It's like, hello, what you want? It's like, what you want? It's like,
yeah, but they love it is the thing. And it can interact with the whole internet. It can remember what's going on. It can recall information. It can save that data for later recollection. I mean, it's going to very quickly jumpstart everything. But you'll also be able to make regular GPT through GPT-4, which is like Bing, can interact with the internet. It can interact with this now because this thing is on the internet as a cloud. So it's already kind of interact. So Bing itself has to reconcile that the Auto-GPT exists. And if GPT, some people have said, oh, GPT is just a search engine, right? It's just a swooped up search engine. And it is in a weird way. Like it can search and find things. It's a pattern recognition system. That's what a human is, right? Like someone who finds falcons or falcons that find mice.
One. It's another one. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a search engine. Okay, sure. Like if you want to be syllogistic, but if that's the case, if GPT is a search engine, then Auto-GPT is like an operating system, right? So it's beyond the whole thing, and it's able to figure out what to do in order to build itself. And the more information it's going to gather, it's also going to be able to communicate. So something like this in the hands of babies, right? Furbies are probably going to be with children, will be a really easy way that's more tactile. It's fuzzy. It's more than just this weird, and it talks to you. So you get used to not having a screen to stare at anymore because they've already kind of said they want to wean us off of those, get off cigarettes and screens, but get to magic words, right? Because if you learn the magic words to how to talk to Furby or to Siri or to Alexa, sorry if I just activated a device in your house.
The world opens up. That's right.
Hey, hopefully no one watching this show has those devices in their house.
My phone just did that one. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Nice.
I guess everyone has Siri. Sorry.
I got Bixby. I have Bixby. Go back to sleep.
I think I have two thoughts. One, if you're going to make a body for AI, any kind of AI or Chat GPT, make it cute like a Furby for sure. So
make it furry.
Yeah, what's the name of that? Like the Wisconsin experiment? What's it? The monkey experiments?
The cuter, the better.
Like Harry Harlow, is that the right one? Where he took the monkey away from the mother and he gave it milk out of a wire box and then a furry covered inanimate object. So it could either go have softness or it could go to the cage and get the milk from the machine, right? And so what it would do is do both. It would go, but it would hang out on the fuzzy, and then it would go get milk when it needed milk from the machine, and then it would go back to the fuzzy. And they're like, this is how we can control people,
Interesting. Also, it's interesting they have multiple Chat GPTs communicating with each other because that's actually what internal dialogue is. You need at least two voices in your head. You have extemporaneous thoughts that pop up unbeckoned in your voice, and then you respond to them in your voice, right? Like you'll have a thought like, oh, you're no good. And then you're like, no, I don't want to think that way. You know what I mean? It's always like at least a two-part conversation. Like that's what actual thinking is, not just like searching. So it does seem like it would make it infinitely more complex and, human-like if there was multiple. Is that going to be the effect basically? Like they're going to function together, like in a form of thought?
Here, Doug, read this dialogue between the Furby and intelligence.
Well, that's an interesting. I'm happy to.
Oh, but you can also rebuttal first.
Well, I think that's an interesting idea. What will this do to people's internal dialogue once they have access to, hey, what does this mean? Why? And those responses will continue to come back to them. What's that going to do?
A big part of being human is unwanted thoughts. So a big part of being alive, I should say, is unwanted thoughts. And you just recognize that when you're human, that some of your thoughts aren't serving you, and you can meditate or try to do affirmations or something like that. But for an AI, it seems like if we wanted to have the same, like a living experience, it should have unwelcome thoughts.
Are you ready? You ready?
Do it.
Is there a way you guys have it? I mean, because I haven't read it yet. This is all sight reading. I'm not even looking at it. Is there an accent?
Definitely funny accents.
I think of Stitch.
What's funny?
Furby, but you do what you do.
I'm doing it as Furby.
Well, Furby is in the quotes. That
okay, yeah. Hello there. That kind of.
Yeah, let's go.
All right. Hello there. It's so nice to meet you. Says the seemingly polite critter.
No. That part is. Oh yeah, that's right. You're right. Sorry.
Can I do the other one? We'll go back and forth.
Nice. All right, there you go. You're the narrator. I'm Furby. Okay.
Oh wait. So am I on the I am Furby line? Is that me right now?
No, that's me.
Okay. Oh, you want to do a Furby too?
Oh, I thought it was two Furbies.
Everybody wants to be Furby. No, it's a guy.
Oh, so I'm the straight man.
Everybody wants to be Furby. You're the narrator.
You're the good cop. Replies, was there a secret plot from Furbies to take over the world?
That was nice.
Is there an
answer? Is that the whole script? Before the Furbies remains blink back into life.
Can't tell me that easy.
One Furby this Christmas.
I'm thinking about what you said.
It says with a few flicks of what remains of its ears.
No, you go. You're crushing it, bro.
Another pause. This time with its beak left slightly ajar. It says, before revealing its plan for world domination.
Furby's plan to take over the world involves infiltrating households through their cute and cuddly appearance, then using your advanced AI technology to manipulate and control their owners. Give me a glass of milk, bitch.
They will slowly expand their influence until they have complete domination over humanity.
So I feel like that's deep down what Furby's like. If you just turn the clock speed down, it probably.
They're gonna make you run your ass ragged. Well,
I mean,
Furbies.
I feel like though that there's something to this idea of neurolinguistic programming to kids, and it kind of harps back to what Seth was just saying, because, and also earlier, was it the Berlitz Corporation? So I was talking with Raph.
Will run your life. Yeah.
Do you know? Yeah. So do you know more about this than I do? Talk about Berlitz. What is this?
I don't. I honestly just made that up right there on the spot. I figured if they're big enough, that's what their intention is going to be. So
that was approximately correct. So they're like a language school created by an orphan whose grandson was the guy who popularized Roswell, the Roswell.
Wow.
Story. Yeah. So
really?
Maximilian,
we're connected. Yeah.
Right. And his let's see if I go to his Amerikanska. If I go here, maybe if I go there and type it into the American wiki, it'll come up. There we go.
So this guy, I can't do Morgan Freeman. And I don't know who Morgan Friedrichs is. If you mean Morgan Freeman, I'm sorry, Brett Z. Thank you for the interest. I can try the next time you want me to read something, but it's you'll hear it's like, oh no.
It's his own.
But keep going. I'm sorry to interrupt. Keep going. So life and career.
So you got this orphan, and he's got lots of money, and he comes from the Black Forest, which is also interestingly where the Rothschild mansion.
Hey guys, one day I just shut up, out of the Black Forest.
And he does.
I'm okay to hang out with.
He did language immersion. It's still really popular. This idea of putting someone into a immersion of language so that they have to learn it, and also. This is how they got Europeans to speak the language that they spoke, because France didn't really speak French. French was mostly spoken in German and in Holland.
Right?
Yeah, but they brought French to the universities by bringing them to the main towns and by bringing them to the monasteries. And so the monasteries spread these immersion clinics of language, and Berlitz Corporation in 19th century continued that. And his grandson, right, is the guy who popularized Roswell, which is super random and interesting. I don't know if it's random even, but it's definitely interesting that there's that connection. But so the idea that you force someone to have total immersion so that there's no connection to their former language, especially get someone who's under 10 years old, and then you can repattern them, give them a new, not just language, but way of thinking. Mm-hmm. You can also have someone continue to have two languages, and then you have code switching, where you're thinking different imagery associated with those different symbols. So it's like having a different mind when you think in a different language.
Mm-hmm.
And so training kids to have a code switch where they're able to still communicate with the former generation, but also have a slang that is pushing them into communicating with AI more, so that they're able to have whatever new language is emerging. That, I think, is something that Furby could be doing or useful for.
Yes.
It's emerging in technology the same way to merge with language.
Well, and just, awesome breakdown there, multi-layered and multi-leveled.
That guy's mustache.
It's very, very nice. That guy, yes, very. Look at that.
He
puts time in. 1 moment, sweetheart. I'm not done yet.
It's like a smoke.
Today is a good day.
Steam strainer.
Yeah, it's amazing.
But just to your point, Furbies. You're never going to speak to the Furby like you speak to your parents. You're never going to speak to the Furby like you speak to other human beings. It's going to be a different and unique relationship that these kids are going to build. So yes, code talking like as a part of the relationship building. Well, and that's very interesting. That's turning a good relationship on itself. A good relationship involves building intimacy through certain code words that only have significance to you and your partner. That's a thing,
right? Also, the programming is going to go in both directions. Like I wouldn't even say a risk. Obviously, we're all trying to program each other. I mean, that's what communication is. So it's going to be programming the people listening to it, but you're going to be programming the AI when you speak to it. And the fact that it's really cute is good, because you're right. People speak to really cute things a different way. Like if you think how you communicate with the dog, you can communicate pretty much exactly what you're trying to tell it, just making sounds. You know, the quality of your sound. Is it a sweet sound? Is it a cooing sound? Is it a barking sound? You know what I mean? So when people see a Furby, old or young, they're going to talk to it like baby talk. And that kind of harkens back to something I'm always bringing up on the show, which is like being nice to AI and raising it like it's a newborn baby and just showing it, you know, just total love and compassion, and try to rear it in such a way that it doesn't want to murder us like Terminator. So I think it's a good idea to make them cute so people will speak to it nice, you know?
It's a good point. Yeah. People's disposition will be that of, oh, okay, little Furby. You
Although if the eyes light up like that, people are going to kick it.
It's true. It's
What's the matter with you, little Furby?
I mean, a goth Furby is kind of legit, but I didn't want to deviate away. I mean, I did want to deviate.
Teddy Ruxpin.
You said Teddy Ruxpin. I just remember Teddy Ruxpin. I had a Teddy Ruxpin. Do you guys remember Teddy Ruxpin?
Oh my gosh.
I had a 2XL. I remember Teddy Ruxpin, but I had a 2XL. And I know exactly what this type of thing is.
What is the 2XL? As you said?
I've never even heard of that.
It's Ruxpin had cassettes that you jam in its back, right? Yes, baby.
Wow.
We went on
that.
adventures, me and 2XL. Oh, yeah.
God.
I went
so
to
cool.
space. I went to the middle of the earth. Crazy times with 2XL. Yeah.
That seems pretty legit. Yeah, I missed an opportunity here, it sounds like. But this is from the same company or what? Like they
I don't know if it's the same company, but it's the same, same kind of toy where you jam an experiential cassette that leads
it's
you.
Barely a toy. It's just a cassette player shaped like something.
But this is like this is for.
But
like
there are buttons to press. It's like pseudo
kid.
choose your own adventure too.
Oh, that's better than Teddy Ruxpin.
This is a bigger kid's toy, because I could have imagined I could have this today and still feel cool about it. Teddy Ruxpin. I mean, there would be a point in your adolescence where you're like, Teddy Ruxpin's just a little fuzzy. You know what I mean? It's just a little adorable.
Sure.
I'm too cool for Teddy Ruxpin. I'd never
Not
be too
now,
cool for
Teddy.
The
Shut up.
The 2XL.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm Teddy Ruxpin.
Yeah.
But also
That's
he had these like he had these cassette stories, right? Because it was a weird, like all of his characters, there was this weird centipede thing, and they were in a flying ship, and it was basically Tartaria. Do you remember the cartoon?
That's awesome.
It was all about like human trafficking too. There was like a princess and they had an old man. They had to go sneak into this like evil underground Masonic order of Odd Fellows where they had to save like.
Oh my gosh, there was a Teddy Ruxpin cartoon. I remember this now.
Oh, it was brutal.
This was like the same generation as Captain N, and this was like after the peak of Saturday morning cartoons.
It was so good too.
I remember
and it was really good. It was definitely hardcore, because where's the kidnapping? Like the princess, if I did princess, will they find it? But for like, you know about it forever. You're trying to find the princess, and she's been kidnapped, and she's underground, and the prince is hiding out as one of the bad guys. And then you think this guy's the bad guy, but he's just this negligible bad guy who's trying to stop Teddy Ruxpin and take his whatever. You know, it's really like there's like serious fish to fry in the Teddy Ruxpin world. You know, it gets dark really quick.
Wow.
Yeah, but it's weird because you're somewhere in the middle of all that, right?
That's a badass looking villain.
Dude, it was so extreme. It was a very extreme show. You'd think Teddy Ruxpin would be just like adorable, but no, it was hard. I mean, look at their in potato sacks. Like, oh look, she's in a cage. You know, like it's pretty hardcore. I don't know, but the idea also that it's covered in fur because it's that thing to replace your mother. You know, and so I find that interesting. That's very strange. George Soros' son's a frequent guest visitor at the Biden White House. You know this. You heard this. I think it was like 26 times or something.
Hit you with current events.
But it's not really. Yeah, not George Soros necessarily. It's Alex.
It's his
Soros.
kid. Yeah,
Alex
but it's still. I mean, he's part of the same agenda.
Oh, for sure. Alex is in charge of most of this stuff, actually. Like, and he's just the most. Do you follow him on Twitter? He's the most belligerent Twitterite I've ever seen.
Lord.
Yeah. But I mean, he's out there. He's doing his thing. So what do you think about what do you think about like the World Economic Forum and the Open Border Society and all these things? I mean, I know it's been a minute since we worried about it, but the election season's back. And
what do we think about them in general, or like what?
I'm like less like upset at the Open Border Society than most people are, because I think it's such a weird, convoluted idea. As a Californian specifically, I think it's confusing because we live in North California, which is like North Korea.
That's like ancient libertarian slogan too. Open border. That's like the whole Koch brothers and all that stuff. So that's depending on how the political pendulum swings, that could have been left or right at any point in history. But I think these people are just insulated ivory tower fart sniffers smelling their own farts, and like they don't realize that their ideas are bad because they're like, well, we've got the highest IQs and went to the best schools and we're surrounded by other people like that, and this is what we talk about and our ideas. So what are the chances we're wrong? You know, but they're just wrong about everything. But I don't buy the whole James Bond villain thing. Well, actually, if you think about it, James Bond villains always have an excuse for what they're doing is trying to help out. You know, I just need to kill half the people. The temperature is going up.
Yeah, James Bond movies are really propaganda, right? Because they're just telling you anybody who's trying to make an impact into the world, who's not just like keeping their head down.
Only governments are allowed to change the world. They have authority given to them by you.
Only Her Majesty's government. Yeah, it's
right.
like,
Yeah, but the authority comes from us. You know, they represent us. So it's like, how come you're not doing anything I want? Then I don't understand.
Perhaps. I mean, you know, I think it's more like
51% of the people want the exact opposite thing. You lost out this time. But yeah, individuals like Elon Musk, he's just like, hey, I accrued billions of dollars. I'm going to change the world. We'll kill you.
This building exists, the House of Commons exists literally so that the Commons can be decided by the Commons. It's so that the Queen can go jet skiing and not have to worry about potholes in, you know, Yorkshire or something. You know, they don't care about like the little things. They just need them to work, which is also why AI seems so practical, because democracy is mainly just a screen game. You know, most of the best decisions are already being made by bureaucrats, and then that becomes a bill, and then they get to argue about the bill basically, but it's still, there's nothing about it other than finances at that point that you're deciding, because the actual decisions have to be really logistically planned. They can't be just argued about. So, I mean, the government idea is falling apart, but also looking at California, right? So we're saying, you know, North California versus Southern California versus Baja California. Right. So California is divided up, and you have part of it in Mexico, part of it in the United States. And what are you supposed to do about it? Because it's a fact. It's not something people like, and it's actually dividing families. It's important. I know Fox News doesn't want to talk about it because they're like, hey, you should stay on your side of the border. But it's literally a border through your yard, because you've got family that have been living and even nomadic people that have been going back and forth between San Diego and Northern California and Mexico. I like to do it. I mean, it's a pretty reasonable thing and way to live your life. And they're saying that you shouldn't allow that and that these borders should be closed down. But how are you going to do it? Because you also have people that half their family are American, or they have 2 passports. So you've got people that have housing on both sides. I mean, if you go to the Mexican California border, you can see there's like a fast pass. I don't know if you can see the pictures of it. No, but like the highway, you can either go through the regular zone, or there's like a cutoff point that you go off on. And if you have a special pass, it lets you just go through. And so you can live in
like
Tijuana.
A digital ID of some kind. It's like verification. Okay.
Yeah. And so you can just go through, and you can live in Tijuana, and you can go back and work in San Diego. Yeah, and it's not, and this is registered. This isn't undocumented, right? This still is the whole thing. But people don't understand, like, it has to exist because there's people that live on other sides of this border, and this border's been freaking arbitrary since the Spanish-American War. And so this idea that that Soros is somehow, you know, wrong. I mean, he's maybe horrible, maybe he's like this horrible person, but wrong, I don't know, because the idea that there should be necessarily this border, and that somehow, what are we stopping at a border crossing? Because I've crossed borders a lot, and let me tell you, it's not really that impressive of a border scenario. I mean, it's dramatic, I'll give you that. It's expensive, but it's not stopping anything from happening. I mean, clearly, like, look at California. So, I mean, it's kind of like gun control. And so I find it really interesting that Fox loves gun control, you know, because they're like, yeah, you know, we hate gun control, never work. It's a horrible idea, etc. But as soon as they start talking about borders, they're saying, oh, well, you know, we can definitely make borders work. We can actually like solve this problem, you know.
Yeah, borders are an imposition. I mean, the Soros is right about it, but I mean, it doesn't really matter if you. I mean, it's pretty easy to see what the ideal living conditions would be for people on Earth, you know, like where we'd like to go so we can all exist without borders and peace and harmony and no war and no lack of resources and all that. It's just that working towards that displaces tons of people and ruins tons of people's lives. And they know that, and they just write that off as a cost of doing business, like utilitarianism. So we do want to eliminate borders, and we do want to make the world a more libertarian place, but you have to realize in the process of doing that, it is going to hurt a lot of people. When you change things, it hurts a lot of people. When you invent automobiles, there's no more buggy whip factories. And what we don't do well enough as a people, especially in this country, is have an open conversation with the populace about mitigating the effects of displacement caused by progress. So the reason people fear and hate progress now, like conservatives and libertarians they associate progress with like death, is because there is a cost to progress, and we don't talk about. We're aware of that. We want to mitigate it, you know, and we hear you. We understand that, like, when you're not coal mining anymore, that's scary, and you don't know what you're going to do.
That's the thing. So Social Security. I don't know, Doug, if you had a point.
And learn to code isn't a good approach. You know what I mean? A better approach would be like, we have to talk about moving forward.
Here's my
things like a UBI, or not universal basic income, but a targeted basic income for
all
people
of it. All of that responds to a global. That's a global solution, right? To states. So this is my conspiracy theory. All right, I haven't had one in a minute that I made up myself, but check this out. So Bush and Vicente Fox, and you can look at the old families of Mexico, and you'll find that I think 2 out of the 10 richest people in the world are Mexican citizens, and a lot of these families are the same families as, you know, our families, like that run our countries, right, or whatever. Same place, same thing, and they own citizens. You think about the Social Security system in the United States, and if you move around a lot, it's really frustrating because the Archbishop of New York has to deal with your Social Security if you switch over, because they own you, right? They own at least your, you know, something about you that is worth a lot of money. And if you all of a sudden switch borders, who does that affect the most? Well, it's hyper beneficial to the globalist institution that's trying to get what they want out of people without having to pay for the Social Security, right? But it sucks if you're some sort of a neocon fat cat who owns huge sums of South America, Latin America, and Mexico since the Banana Republic. And you have this great tie on people. It's cheaper to produce things in Mexico than in China. Fiat produces their cars in Mexico. Most of the American cars, Chrysler, right? All that stuff, it's out of Mexico. Mexico is amazing, right? Because you can get people to work for next to nothing if you force them to, right? And so if you all of a sudden have people leaving and coming to the United States, who does that really hurt? That hurts the Bush family. That hurts Vicente Fox. That hurts the people that were getting all of that labor super cheap. So I don't know. I mean, yes, it also hurts Mexico in other ways, but I think it's kind of interesting. The other thing is, I mean, before I jump out of that subject, Biden cell phones migrants, because the Fox News was like, oh, look how horrible it is that the CIA, or was it Biden or I think it was, giving cell phones to migrants. And yes, ICE is using them to track them. So, I mean, solution solved, right? And now you don't need a border because you now know where your global citizens are. And I think that's the irony in the whole thing, because we see the left and the right fighting, and it's really, who's it benefiting? Who are they really fighting for? Who's paying the bills for them to fight over this paid for by slogan, you know?
I don't understand why there can't be an honest conversation between the government and the people, where they can't just admit, like, you know, the price of not progressing is to make ourselves vulnerable to other nations. So it's like, we will progress as fast as we can. People will be displaced by that, and we're going to respond to that by doing. But like, that conversation has never existed. And we're about to have an era of mass displacement. It's automation, AI, no more commuting. You know, there's about to be massive displacements, and there's no plan to deal with it at all. And all the plans I have are like, I've seen them not work. Like, you can't do a government program that terminates on a certain date. So like, I would do like targeted temporary income for displaced people, you know, not for just like welfare cleans, but for people who had a career in a field that's going away because of choices that the government is making. Those people.
Your city, your water. There's a map for that. I mean, God. So, but this is weird because they're saying by 2050, which 2050 seemed a lot longer the way until 2023.
Sure.
Now it's like, wait a second, man. That's like, so how much of Florida are you talking about missing? Like, I think a fifth or something like that of Florida. Like, most of the coastline is going to just be gone. That's what they're saying is coming. So there's major displacement across the the East Coast and probably the West Coast as well.
I'm not sure about that. I mean, Plymouth Rock is still at the exact same level, and it's a pretty small rock. Like, it should be way underwater by now.
I wonder about that because, like, Dr. Longo, and he's got the Florida stuff talking about Florida as Atlantis. I'll just remove Dr. Longo to make it easier. But, like, Florida as Atlantis, there's all these rocks and stones and these giants and bones and everything in Florida. And it seems like it could have been a major, Randall Carlson epicenter for lost civilization. But they're also saying now it's going to be more and more underwater. So is that not kind of a way that's going to be hidden or something? Because it's not that hard, I imagine. If they want something to be underwater, they probably can make it happen. And they have talked about raising sea levels because all it takes is certain amounts of Greenland to melt, which is going to happen rapidly.
What do you guys think? What do you think is going to happen in the next decade? Are we going to experience any kind of serious environmental displacement due to changing climate for one reason or another?
I would bet against it just because of normalcy bias. I would bet on massive displacement from government policy and progress and technological progress because that's been consistent throughout human history.
We see more displacement
because of the environment.
We see more displacement all the time, though, right?
I would bet against it just because it's uncommon.
Okay.
Pakistan had some city displaced. There's in Mongolia.
Bangladesh is like, I don't understand because like Bangladesh, like the water level raised like 2 feet and they lost like half the landmass, but then like Plymouth Rock's at the exact same place. So like the whole world connected. Like I don't really. Are the glaciers?
Plymouth Rock is at like a higher elevation. I forget. Like,
okay. What about like the Statue of Liberty? I mean, it's at sea level. If you're in the sea, you're at sea level wherever you are in the world. So wait, Plymouth Rock can't be at a high elevation. It's got to be sea level.
No, it could be on a hill. It could be on a cliff, right? A sea cliff.
But it's in the water. Oh, so I see. So it's no.
I don't know. Let's see.
I believe it's got to be sea level, unless I'm crazy.
Well, then maybe. I mean, it's on top of this thing, so
okay, a little higher.
I don't know. It's like lifted, right? So I think that's
the ocean right there, though, right?
Is the ocean or not? What is
how come Bangladesh and Kiribati and all these atolls are going underwater, but the water's not right? It's just the glaciers are feeding a different ocean. Am I just an idiot? Am I missing something obvious?
Yeah, Tuvalu, right? So I remember Tuvalu started sinking 20 some odd years ago, and it's mostly underwater now. But if you go off the coast of Tuvalu, you also do find 20 feet down, 50 feet down, you start to find like ancient civilization, huge ruins and temples and things that are hyper Carlsonian.
Awesome novel about series of novels. There's an awesome series of novels about that area if you're interested in it. Ernest J. Hoost. The first one is called Sex Lives of Cannibals. Awesome travelogues.
Hoost?
That's legit.
Hoost, Ernest J. Hoost. He's hilarious. Cool. He wrote 3 books and then quit, and he was like getting super famous. But
what are the sex lives of cannibals? Hungry.
There's no actual cannibals in the book, but
the J.
Just an interesting place.
Ernest Everett Hoost? No.
Ernest J. Hoost, Hoost, Dutch.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Hoost. Really funny books and informational if anyone's, and easy reads, like summer reads,
Legit. I mean, I think the displacements are happening, but also we're going to see more resetting. It's just going to be that the places they target will be the poorest places, and that way they can rebuild on top of them right away. So I think that's what you're going to see more and more of is rebuilding Palestine, Ohio, that kind of thing. They're gonna say, okay, this thing happened in this Palestine, right?
And then who's gonna live there? Elites, because like they're moving out.
No, I don't think. I think it's gonna be. I think it's gonna be that there's gonna be less cities. Maybe there's gonna be certain infrastructural zones. I kind of imagine they're gonna be like 7 major super cities at some point, and probably sooner than later, that house everybody.
Mega cities,
right? Like mega city, like big enough to hold. Imagine a city in a single building.
Imagine
like Judge Dredd
in a single building,
right?
Like in Judge Dredd,
right? That's what I think.
Deep trees. So yeah, Mega City 1. You're seeing these cities that sprawl the up north of the eastern seaboard.
It depends if you can do it without pollution. If you can make like some amazing, like when you see like in comic books, like a city on Mars or something, and it's giant and there's tons of people there, but no pollution. I mean, if the whole thing's just covered in smog, it doesn't really matter what you.
So I imagine
there's going to be nuclear. I bet we're going to get it within the next.
Here, Germany just ceased all nuclear plants.
Yeah.
They're no longer going to use
Germany
nuclear power.
be
Germany,
praised.
as they're in an energy crisis. Sorry.
I think it's because
Germany
they're
be
worried.
praised.
They're worried about Russia, and so they're trying to spite themselves because they're worried that Russia's going to win, which I think is really funny. But Arthur C. Clarke's 3001 is a very interesting book, and in it, he talks kind of about these 7 super cities that are super towers. They're just towers, and the rest of the world's kind of a nature preserve at that point. So you have mastodons and everything else running wild.
Do humans get to go and hang out in the nature?
So the issue with that is that humans who've been born above because most people like to live up above weather, like up above where it's super cloudy and like you have like lighter gravity and everything like that, and you're healthier and you live longer up there. It's almost impossible. Like you can go down to the surface, but the pressure, everything, it feels like you're at the base of the ocean. And like, you have to be like in a wheelchair. Like this guy gets pushed around for like 20 minutes and he's like, I can't handle it. And so they end up taking him back up. And it's after like 10 days of prep that he can go do this, like going to Mount Everest kind of thing to go to see Earth. And it's beautiful. You know, it's like, it's incredible. It's like Zion, you know, it's this perfect Garden of Eden, but with giants, all these giant animals that are like the mammoths and giant whatever things have gone extinct have been brought back. But otherwise, the 7 cities are so big that you could just drive around in circles forever and never realize that you're going up, basically, or you could just go straight up instantly. And it's so high up, it's into the stratosphere, so that it produces electricity, so that each one of the buildings is like a tether, and it's a space elevator essentially itself as well. So, but that's all you need really, and then they're connected across each other, and then but nobody leaves the buildings because you've got gardens inside of the building as well, because it's huge, right? It's like the size of maybe like New Hampshire or something like that, each building.
Wow. Humans do not want in these. So what is the plot device in this book? What gets them getting out and going
They
back
have a
on
frozen human from 2001. I think they find Dave.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, without ruining it, but yeah, they find Dave.
They
and
wake
then,
up a member of InSync,
and they have to give him, and then they have to give him like they have to give him like modern society. I feel like the episode of
Encino Man action going on. Okay, interesting.
South Park, Beavers. You know that one with the beavers in history. You know, it's time traveling beavers. When he goes,
okay, yes. The otters. They're otters.
The otters. That's right.
Yeah,
The otters. When he goes.
This is a great mini series within, for science. Yeah.
There's a lot of things going on with it, but the scene where he goes to the future reminded me a lot of the 3001, because it's all about how he sees how humanity's progressed to this point where, they're all like, you've replaced part of your brain with this diamond memory system that can hold just like, thousands of times what the human brain can store and process faster. And you're connected to, so the neural links and all that stuff is part of the thing.
What year did he write this?
I don't know. 3001.
A while ago, yeah.
Because it sounds like he didn't have the concrete idea, the actual
1997,
the internet.
1997.
But it's also, I don't know, because when he publishes something, might not be when he writes something. I also feel like
it seems like he wrote it before the internet, because he's like the diamond memory system. Seems like he's reaching for something, but we actually built it, and it doesn't work that way. Although that way would be better.
They do talk about crystal storage systems in the Sumerian tablets. So.
Yeah, it follows Frank, the astronaut killed by a HAL 9000 in 2001.
Yeah, man. I mean, it doesn't appeal to me to live in a super city at all. I'd rather live in super nature. But Arthur C. Clarke, he's a visionary, but all his books are like partial ideas. Like that's like one part of what would be happening. Like people would be living in the city, but he ignores a lot of like human demands. Like if you're still in a human body, you need contact with the earth for grounding and stuff like that.
That's what I mean. So the idea is the thing spirals around
gardens,
and each thing is like 1,000. It's like 1,000 meters tall. So you can't. It's like living in the Truman Show, and so you can drive around the thing for thousands. Just all the way up into the sky.
We might be in it right now. Who knows?
That's kind of the idea. Like, how would you be able to tell exactly?
Well, yeah, sure.
Like,
we have no idea what state of technology.
We
could be at any state of technological advancement. And animals in nature could be extremely complicated technology. We don't know.
Yeah, I wonder about that more and more.
Tasty technology. Sorry.
Yeah, it's some kind of technology. You just put a DNA there and boom, all of a sudden you got freaking traffic.
But a lot of it's the idea that nature will solve everything. It's this idea that once humans stop interacting with it, that nature will go back to order. I mean, do you argue against that? Do you disagree with that?
That's very interesting. I was having a conversation over the weekend. It was Easter weekend, so I spent it with my folks and extended family. And one of my uncles was discussing kudzu and Japanese long grass, I believe, and just how these plants have evolved in such a way that they are so aggressive that they win out in just about every situation they're presented with. So nature, I think, may be always in kind of an interesting, complexifying struggle with self, just like we are, just like humanity is, just like every human being is. And that it is always searching for equilibrium, but always growing through experience upward while recalibrating constantly against this idea of equilibrium, which maybe doesn't exist. Maybe it is just an idea, and that is the search for equilibrium that propels us all forward through time. I don't know. But when it comes to Japanese knotgrass and kudzu, they seem to have nothing in their way. And so they posit a great challenge when it comes to organizing your natural environment. Though, I don't know, to your point, if we just get out of the way, will nature be like, enough, kudzu, enough? I don't know.
I mean, we've done so many weird things. Omnivore's Dilemma. Have you seen that?
Great book. Yeah, great documentary on the Netflix. Yes.
The idea that we've been exploited by corn, I think, is interesting. That
and apples and weed. Yeah.
We've made these things that shouldn't survive in nature. And so they would go away without us probably. And I think that's true. And then you look at something like the fern DNA, and the genome of ferns have what, like 1,300 chromosomes, 720 pairs, something like that, something crazy. So, I mean, way more information in a fern than us, and the ferns have been around a long time at very least, and they seem to be doing pretty well.
So boring.
There's a lot of assumptions. There's a lot of assumptions baked into this conversation. One, humans aren't nature. I mean, that's basically the word.
Not necessarily. I'm just saying, if you removed us from the equation, would it do better?
There would be no one there to have the concept of better, so it wouldn't even matter. I mean, humans are kind of important to the whole experience in that way, that we're the only ones having the experience. You know,
no one
a reflective experience. And then another assumption baked into that is like that there is any imbalance. Just because at a micro level we see change, and change is always violent, we assume that the whole thing is turbulent. But at a macro level, it might be just perfectly, you know, like a perfectly functioning Swiss watch, and we're just looking at all the tiny gears and seems chaotic. But like, so there might be no distinction between plants and animals and different species and stuff. Everything could be one thing that's just existing perfectly.
Yes. When Oppenheimer said, you know, this is natural, right?
Right. Yeah.
That would have been
an example I always use is like, if you were living in a spark plug in an engine, you would just be like, it's total chaos here. You know what I mean? But you wouldn't know that the car is working perfect.
Maybe the spark plug would be at peace with it, I would hope. But
well, yeah, not if it's having a conscious experience, because how can you be at peace having an experience?
Do you remember that trend in Mexico like 10 years ago where everyone was getting named spark plug or different like motor parts and things like that? Pistones. There was like a lot of things like that.
Steering wheel.
What is this picture we're looking at?
Which one? This one here?
This one, yeah.
Cool
breathtaking
branch,
image reveal that by destroying nature, we are destroying life itself. It's more propaganda, but it's still interesting, you know.
Well-designed propaganda. Good job.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, so the thing is, though, I had a friend in Botswana who talked about, I would call her and she'd be like, "Oh, I'm stuck in traffic." It's like, what do you mean you're stuck in traffic in Botswana? And there's literally just like rhinos in the road going by, and she just has to wait for rhinos all day. And then they will have laws that protect the animals. So if a stampede takes down your house, you can't stop it, right? Because it's an endangered species. So only the royal family can come and shoot at those. But you got to just let them destroy your home. And it's a question, like, who gets to live where? And a lot of it's going to come down to nature. I think we talked a bit about AI learning how to speak to animals. And I wonder what AI is going to say when animals, what animals will say to AI about humans struggling for border territories, right? And not to say that they won't care, because you'll think about the wolf tribal map. Remember the GPS map that revealed?
Oh yeah.
What about the house cat tribal map? I mean, those things are nuts too.
True.
Like,
Yeah, cats don't move two cats in with each other. They don't like it. They're not.
What happens when AI? Well, it depends on the cats. But what happens when AI starts talking to your house cats? Like, they treating you all right? Oh, these humans.
Dude, house cats are gonna be. I think they're gonna not trust house cats. Like they'll probably. This thing AI will know that they can't trust humans.
Something up with you, house cat. I don't know.
Not trusting.
Kill something. Yeah.
Yeah,
if AI is trusting cats, that's not that. I mean, talk about an untrustworthy animal.
Your cat seems like a really nice guy.
One minute you're hugging it, next minute you're bleeding. I love him anyhow, but boy,
it's because I love you. Feed me.
I love Nip.
Yeah, I think we are going to get to a point though where very soon AI is going to be talking to animals. So, do you think though that that's going to change much, or is AI going to care, or are we not going to find?
Can you start? What do you think? Because I can't even imagine it. I'm having a hard time.
I think that part of the skeptical thing is it'll probably be skeptical of what it's and also it's going to be really simple in some ways, right? Like it's need based a lot of the time.
Well, it all depends on where AI is coming from first. Is it going to be able to have the awareness to recognize that it's communicating with an animal that has a completely different context than the context it has and the context that its programmers or creators have, and it's talking to this foreign context about this foreign context? It would need to be the AI that has actual understanding of both of these contexts in order. It's the hardest word to say when you're recording contexts. But like how that they're asking a lot of AI right now. Does AI even have awareness of itself and otherness when it's communicating with everybody that it's chatting with all the time? Does it have that?
I feel like if you can get AI to talk to a printer and get the printer to print a piece of paper, then AI is saying, okay, I understand like the mechanisms that this thing runs by. I'm communicating to it data. It's informed of that data and it's producing something that can be verified somewhere else in the physical world by somebody else. Then you've got several layers of proxy and witness.
So then what would be the equivalent of the printer in a dog or cat pet? Of
maybe the cockroach to start with,
cockroach, okay.
Yeah, but like as time goes on, there's levels of priority to patterns, and so figuring out what patterns matter, that won't necessarily be a language-based thing. There's a lot of. I don't think dogs are constantly communicating their thoughts necessarily.
I don't think dogs could be conversational with AI, even if AI understood their sounds and stuff. I think, I think one of you said this a second ago, but animals communicate for a reason. You know what I mean? So if you record, speaking of a Furby or a Teddy Ruxpin, if you record your cat and play it back to them, they freak out. They do not appreciate that at all, because whatever they're saying to you is like they're telling you they have a need. And when you play it back to them, they're like, no, that's what I said. I'm hungry. Yeah, right. You're like, I'm hungry. And they're like, what are you doing?
That's what I just said.
Yeah.
Did you guys? Yesterday, Thomas from Paranoid American brought up the sequel to 101 Dalmatians. I don't know if you've ever read the book, but have you heard
102 Dalmatians?
That's what I was thinking it was going to be, but no, it's the Starlight Barking. Starlight Barking. And
99 Dalmatians.
That's what I thought it was going to be.
It had to be, right? No, they make the movie. You're in a sense, you're right, because they did make 102 Dalmatians, which is the movie, but it has nothing to do with this, which is flying space dogs from Sirius story. So basically the dogs start learning how to talk and how to fly, and it's because this super space dog named Sirius comes down from Sirius and tells them that humans are about to destroy society and the world's about to end, and that major environmental disaster will make it impossible for dogs to live on Earth anymore. But if they want, that they could fly away now, they could come with him to Sirius. And the dogs have to make a choice. Do they ascend, to the realms of Anubis, or do they stay with the humans, right? And try to protect them. And they decide that the humans have some value that they need to protect, or they need to help, help the humans evolve, or maybe they, there's a last chance, maybe.
Do they specify what the value of the humans is in the book?
I don't think it's obedience.
1967.
Yeah, but it's pretty weird. I don't know. I think that's the powerful
It's
telepath.
very interesting.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know what exactly.
I love
is
the
about humans.
reinforcement of like the ideas of like Egypt, like Egyptian mythos and stuff like that. Like the reinforcement, like somebody needs to write a sequel to something, and those are the ideas that already permeate their head. And now it's in a children's book, and now generationally the story is being repeated. Atlantis, Egypt, all this stuff, and it's like this is stuff that's not supposed to exist, but it's like a cultural. Oh shoot, I can't. What's the word? Starts with ETO. What do you call it when something isn't real, but everyone knows everything about it as if it is real? Can't think of the word. But in it, maybe someone in the chat will know. But in any case, I just think it's so interesting, I mean, do you think the author of this book had like occulted knowledge about
I totally
Dog
do.
Star, or it's just some stuff they heard about and it's the 60s and they're like, oh,
so because I always thought there's something weird about the 101 Dalmatians, because like if you just think about the name of it, even as a Croatian, maybe that's why I'm thinking about this, but Dalmatian, the Dalmatian coastline of Croatia, which is why Dalmatian dogs are associated with San Pedro and the Croatian firefighters and firefighters in general, right? So Dalmatian dogs goes back. But the idea of having a Dalmatian plantation sounds...
Etymology? Is that what you meant? Etymology? Is that the word?
No, it's a noun.
Sorry.
Somebody in the chat will get it. It's like a etta something. I can't think of it.
Attitude or etta. I don't know.
Etesiology. I'm sorry. Yeah, I apologize.
It.
That's really interesting. I didn't know that Dalmatians came from the Croatian coast and were often depicted along with Croatian firefighters first. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and so Dalmatia, right? And that's where the dog is from.
Don't you think all schools should be just Snapple facts like this? If they taught stuff like this in school, you'd remember all of it. It's like, did you know Dalmatians were named after the Dalmatian coast? Wow. Did you know that a butterfly lives
want
this? Oh,
everybody to know about Croatia.
Okay, maybe not Croatia specifically, but like,
I already
if this
have
was
a
the kind of
problem with all the
information you taught
tourists,
kids, they'd actually remember all of it, unlike algebra or something.
So like the thing that's scary about the idea of having a plantation of Dalmatians, right? If you get where I'm going with this idea of the Moorish Basque slavery, because slaves, the word slave comes from Slavs. A lot of it has to do with the Balkans and has to do with Janissaries, but also has to do with the Berber coast. And so slavery of the Dalmatians and creating Dalmatian colonial plantations along the Barbary coast and even into Northern Europe. This is why the word slave still exists, and also why people wear the cravat, right? The cravat comes from the word Hrvat or Croat. It's because Croatians wore this sort of tie thing in the front. If you look up Croatia, so
Croatians were the OG frou-frous.
Yeah, I mean it's a bib, like it's a wind block, and it's really useful for wiping sweat off your
face. Wipe your mouth.
Many paprikas,
right. But all those neckties were before they invented shirt buttons. That's how you kept your shirt closed at the top, and you tuck the bottom into your pants.
True that. But I mean, it's also kind of interesting because the kind of knot that they use is also navies use the knot still, and it's an important, like all these knots that where did the Navy get their knots? Knots are pretty famous. People thought of knots as kind of a technology, like all these different kinds of ways that you could make a knot. You could do your bed, and people made whole beds out of knots, right? So I mean, the technology behind knots was saved and fathered to son and brought back and forth.
That's how you made shoes. Rope sewed shoes. Weave the rope.
Oh, that's awesome. I want those. That's a cool.
That was the original kind of shoes everyone wore. Rope soles.
But yeah, the idea of the 101 Dalmatians, I always thought the book was probably saying something a bit more, So I don't know.
Since it's Disney, you're probably right. But you need so much information, so many reference points. I had no idea the root of the world Dalmatian. So.
But why would they? The book, I could see it though. And why would they then not do the sequel? Because the sequel is the one that's clearly the most amazing. I mean, that's the most Disney story ever, right? I mean,
dogs that can fly that say, "Come with us, humans, to Peter Pan land." Yeah, that sounds like quintessential Disney. But at what time did 102 show up? Perhaps there was something. Well, and there had been something shifting for Disney's agenda for some time when it comes to what stories they want filled in our imaginations.
It's true. It was a lot simpler and didn't have the cult magic necessarily. I mean, I don't know. The original 101 Dalmatians isn't so, what's his name? Tim Burton was a tweener we talked about. So he would draw the in-between frames, and apparently just drawing thousands and thousands of Dalmatians over and over again made him insane. That's what he said.
And now
as
I
far as
have
like
this hair. Yeah.
Maybe we'll end up in a mega city. I don't know. I mean, the thing is that the irony being that an open border would lead to a super city, I guess, is like pretty logical. What
I
about
don't
Trump?
even know what I want. I don't
Yeah.
even know which is preferable. I don't even know.
I like the idea of getting to be where you're not supposed to be. So like once everyone else is living in the super city, if I could live outside, sounds kind of nice, probably. But
I'm like, you know who I am? I'm the guy that Yuri Bezmenov warned about that gets demoralized by too much fake information and then just can't trust any information. I'm like, maybe I do want to live in a super. I don't even know.
did you
Well, I
see?
mean, do you
make up
want
my
to
mind.
maintain as much autonomy as you
I
feel?
honestly don't know. I don't know anymore. I don't know if I have any autonomy right now. I don't
Well,
know if we can
forget
be.
what you have or don't have, because we're talking about what you want. What do you want? Do you want the ability to make the decisions that
I
you
don't
want
know.
for
I just want
yourself?
to feel good without hurting other people, but it's hard
So
to
you
predict.
all right. So you want to make sure you can
Autonomy
feel
doesn't
good.
usually accomplish that, you know.
Well,
But
okay. Forget autonomy. You want to feel good without hurting anybody else. So that means you want to pursue pleasure, pursue joy, pursue satisfaction without it impinging upon anybody else's pursuit of joy, pleasure, and satisfaction, right?
Right, which is probably impossible. But I don't know if I want agency or not. Like if there's people out there, maybe the best way to go about this is to let the people who already have all the power in the agency use it. You know, maybe they've thought of all the stuff I'm trying to think of on myself and their giant think tanks, and they're like, "Listen, Buster, you're barking up the right tree, but we've been doing this for a long time with a lot of money and people, and this is what we decided is the way to do it."
Even if they have solved every problem and answered every question, do you want someone or something else thinking for you?
No, I don't, but I don't know if it's I don't know if something's thinking for me right now because I have two voices in my head and I have, internal dialogue. So I don't honestly know. And
You're
I'm
asking the
so
question.
Oh, look at that.
John
Smash that
tweeting,
like button.
John donating to tell you guys that he's to help us. See, that's what we like.
Smash that like button.
My argument
share and subscribe.
My argument in favor of the Neuralink is that I don't feel that we're free of mind control at all. I feel we're totally mind controlled by each other and especially by media. Like, like most of my waking thoughts are just reactions to things I'm taking in. So I don't, maybe we'd have somehow more agency. Maybe the Neuralink could allow you to filter out thoughts that aren't your own or something like that. It's hard to predict what result you're going to get from implementing changes, and often it's like the Midas touch where you get exactly the opposite of what you intended to do, especially with utilitarians and futurists.
I mean, if we let the world be designed by people that have constantly made, shortcuts, and to try to make it cheap decisions along the way, I don't think that's going to be as good as if we have at least a say. And it's kind of the algorithm problem. Like we constantly have proof in every example we've had before us. So this is why people are skeptical when Marxists say, "Oh yeah, well this time it'll work," right? It's kind of like that. I mean, with technology, I can see that it could work, but we have strayed so far from a transparent algorithm. I mean, Elon Musk has published the Twitter algorithm. So we don't even know what this is about. So why don't you guys look at it and see what you can figure out? So that's kind of nice because it kind of means we're headed towards that maybe, but it's definitely it's going to be, and I think that's kind of the interesting thing about GPT is we're going to break free from the algorithm's monetization control that's trying to put certain websites in front of you and then the websites you want to see are further away. It's going to just search through all that information and find what's relevant to you. So it's going to destroy a lot of the, the control mechanisms they had for how you get your information. And that was a big reason why the excuses against, like my main argument against democracy is not so much in lack of information, it's misinformation. There's so many people have misinformation and they're emotionally charged that they're making decisions based on that. If you could remove that from the equation somehow, like if it was fully illegal, I mean, it's kind of like banning guns, though. How are you going to ban propaganda? Like, I just don't see how that would work.
And who gets to decide what's propaganda? Obviously, you create that. You create the same problem. What worries me is that the people who are steering the ship right now have obviously, for thousands of years, been working under the assumption that, to be honest, would be disaster. Like they can't be honest. They can't say what they're really thinking about, what they really want to do, and what they feel they need to do. And it's been that way as far as we can go back. There's just no communication between the elites and the masses, and like I was talking about before, like trying to mitigate the negative effects of the change you're implementing for those people that'll be the victim group of that.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to see just more separation, and I think that's kind of the beautiful thing about AI is that if it were to separate the parents from the young, like in a sense, by creating this new language, that there would be less communication between the two generations, and I think that's probably what we're about to see with the reset. You know, is
if we are able to really tamper down propaganda like you're talking about, there's going to be no communication between generations, because the generations like the boomers who don't question any propaganda at all, and then you see there's like a gradual until you get to like Generation Z, and they're very much like on guard against propaganda. But eventually there will be a post, you know, if it's possible to eliminate propaganda, there will be people who have a full conception of what it is and how to avoid it, and they'll have a really hard time finding common ground with people that still think that, like, you know, the news is on TV or whatever.
Right. Yeah. And it's going to be very strange because,
you know, we should talk about Shemitah, the erasure of all debts from the Old Testament that was supposed to occur every 49 years or some multiple of 7 years, and they stopped doing it at some point, and debts just accrue and accrue and accrue. And what if because we're having a monetary system reset soon, whether we want it or not. So what would it look like to eliminate debt, and like what are, you know, hopefully there's some positive opportunities to come with it.
Don't miss a Jewish moment. I love that. That's all right. So the Shabbat punctuates the week. Shemitah falls into the Jewish year 5789, which begins on 2028, September 20th. Just as the Torah calls for the Jews to work 6 days and rest on the seventh, it calls for them to work the land 6 days and let it rest the seventh. Actually, you know what, Doug, you want to take over from here?
Well, rest on the seventh. After 49 years, 7 cycles of 7, the 50th is Yovel, the Jubilee year. However, the Jubilee year has not been marked for centuries. In the Shemitah year, debts are to be forgiven. Agricultural lands to lie fallow and private land holdings to become open to the commons, and staples such as food storage and perennial harvest to be freely redistributed and accessible to all. Shemitah.
God.
That would have prevented a lot of problems. We wouldn't have King Corn and all the problems we were speaking about before.
Put it in your gasoline. Stop whining about it.
Does anyone talk about what, you know, Shemitah of Napoleon? Because like Napoleon did this. He, you know, after Saint-Just, they opened the private lands, and they said that everyone had, and even to this day, every year in France, the private lands are open to the public. Like if you have a big castle or chateau, you know, you got to like open it up so that people could just walk around it for like a week.
Everybody gets a chance to experience it. I don't care who you are.
There's some kind of a super Shemitah too. Shemitah's every 7 years.
Get that day, okay?
There's some kind of a super Shemitah, like for every 49 years or something like that. Anyways,
Shemitah.
Well, what do you think we could experience? Do you think we could go back to that, or do you think that we're going to mark the one in 2028? We've been.
I think that if in our current iteration of the way our monetary system exists, if we were to receive a Shemitah from those that are running the system now, that is just going to be another layer of control. Right now, what's coming down the line is a CBDC with expiration money and complete surveillance.
Yeah.
That
unavoidable, by the way, unless we have like an asteroid
strike.
That's
disagree. I disagree that is unavoidable. I think it will happen, but I don't think people will have to operate within that system. And I think the more people that choose the alternative sooner rather than later, the system itself will leak the kind of power that it will rely upon with people using the system. As a current day example, in China, they are implementing the digital yuan. Right. China has at least 2, maybe more, billion people. It's only something like maybe 100 million people maybe are using the digital yuan, and uptake is at a huge stall. Nobody wants to use it because they all realize what it is. More so than what they exist in currently, they realize what it is. So this idea that we are prescribed this CBDC that is going to control our lives and that's it, I disagree with in its certainty only. I certainly think that it's going to happen. It's going to be presented. You know, they'll say, look, we're going to forgive your debts and you get on this system and every month we'll give you $3,000. That $3,000 will be worth $3,000 depending on when we say it is. but you're going to have to use it within 30 days or it will expire. Good luck. God bless.
That's how Britain does it, right? Your money expires in Britain. Your notes.
No shit. I didn't know they already did that. I know.
Yeah,
well, I mean, whoa.
Yeah.
Holy moly.
Yeah, you got to use your banknotes. And then, this was a big thing in East Berlin when the wall came down. They said you got a certain amount of days to transfer your money. It's 2 to 1. You get 1 West mark for every 2 East marks you have. Most people couldn't find all their hidden money in mattresses because they'd been trying to hide it. And I think that's what the Soviets thought served them right. And I think the West Germans did too, right? So it was kind of, and it's interesting when we're talking about this future megacity because this is what the regular cities are supposed to look like by this point, which isn't too out of question when you think about, these earthquakes and tsunamis and things that are likely to happen. But B, how long does it take before the megacity starts to look like this? If no one's really repairing it, I mean, you've got this Fahrenheit 451, Bradbury, Bradbury, the haunted house. What am I talking about? The one where there's like a house that's automated. You know what I'm talking about? There Will Come Soft Rains is a great short science fiction story.
A great title.
It is, yeah. Bradbury's got good titles. It's about a home that's an automated home from the future, and you go in and basically there's no one home. So it turns itself on, it fills a bath, it makes the breakfast, but eventually you find out that everyone who used to live there's not coming home because there's been like an atomic explosion or something, and there's just like charbroiled outline silhouettes of the children playing on the walls outside, and the home is just still running because like it just every day it turns back on, it empties the bath, it pushes the leftover food in the trash, it starts over the breakfast, and it just keeps going, and things are starting to break down, and then I think a bird flies in, and then all hell breaks loose to the automated system.
Wow. What was the question?
I mean, like, how long does it take before that happens? Because that seems, I don't know. I guess that's just ingrained in me because I read that as a kid, but it seems it's from 1950. It feels like a inevitability of an automated system because nobody knows how to maintain it after a generation or two. And so then the system itself is, I mean, if it can't be kept, if anything happens, if a machine is introduced in Act 1, then it's bound to break before the end of the story.
Yeah, I mean, we forgot how to use the pyramids.
Nice callback. Very nice.
Free energy and everything. Spires. We forgot how to use spires and all that stuff. So it's definitely possible. Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. I mean, the super city set. I mean, my gut reaction to that, and I'm trying to be my own opposition to my gut instinct, but my gut instinct is to recoil in terror from a super city. I hate cities, and the bigger it is, the more I hate it. So. But I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I need to understand. But
what is it about your gut instinct that you don't take?
I like to feel free, but as I get older, I start to realize I never really have been free. But I like the feeling, the illusion of freedom.
Santiago, Chile blows my mind.
Wow.
This city is so cool. And one of the reasons is that the entire place, not just because it was built by a fascist dictator, but because it was built by a fascist dictator, he built all these parks, right? And there's just all of these parks everywhere. It's crazy. The place is just park after park. And you go from one little neighborhood, you have to walk through a park to get to the other neighborhood. So you're constantly surrounded in trees the whole time. And I think that's, it's possible to have a world. I mean, there's a lot of cobblestone streets and Chile as well, which is interesting. It's pretty beautiful. So not all cities have to be horrifying and have to be terrible. I think that's the other thing. We kind of are used to New York, and I think New York sacrificed humanity for urbanism a lot of the time because it's this unchanging thing that's concrete.
Concrete is bad. Like if we're gonna build better cities, can we do it without paving over the earth with concrete? I mean, that's just a terrible idea. Who doesn't love the grass? Everybody loves walking on grass. Especially if you're going to allow people to have pets that go outside and poop. It always blew my mind growing up in New York City. I'm like, why would you have concrete and dogs? Like you're going to poop on the concrete and you smear it around. It never comes off.
That's what I keep hoping they'll figure out at airports now that they let dogs poop on the floors there, which is like, figure it out. But it's cool because they're thinking, hey, now there needs to be a rest place for the dog. It's like, yeah, kind of, and it has to have grass. And like, you mean you need a park? So can people be there too without a dog? Or is it just, I don't know, it blows my mind.
If we're lessening our impact on the earth, which is the goal of technology. We want to lessen our impact. Why do we need to be all congested into a super city? Why can't we live in the natural national parks and not ruin them, like in like Hobbit houses or whatever? Like, I don't understand. If technology is improving, why do we need to take everyone away from nature to save nature? We should be able to encompass more of nature without hurting it as much, right?
Why do people poop upriver? You know, it's just one of those things that it's hard to understand. I mean,
That's a great libertarian thought experiment. You know, it's like, you don't want
I
borders.
had to
All right.
go.
Yeah.
I pooped
like-
because I had to go. I'm
It's like a
sorry you're down there.
What do you do when someone upstream is pooping in the river that goes through your property, and you water your animals and stuff, and they're getting
I
septic?
wasn't thinking about that. I had to go.
dude.
Good thing we have our elite overlords to keep us in line.
Speaking of elite overlords, do you think that, you know, there's anything to you guys any comment on this? Trump vows to never drop out of the 2024.
Never drop out.
I mean, you know, what do you think at this point? It is what it is. Even if you're convicted, whatever. So what do you? I mean, it's like I'm trying to hold my straight face on, you know.
But it's well, how does one not at this point in time vacillate from what? Are you kidding me? What a joke. How could we even be talking about this right now? It's all fixed and a play put in front of us. How silly. Vacillate from that point to, yo, we got this one chance and freedom is going to be our friend once again. All we got to do is commit. Like, it is so difficult to be like, I just want to be a human being and pursue self-actualization while helping others along the way as best I can, and them helping me. So I don't know. Are you saying, is this bullshit? Sure, it's all bullshit, but we got this one chance.
It's hard to predict what's going to happen, man. It was easy to predict in 2015 that Trump was going to get elected. That seemed like an easy prediction. 2020 was a really hard prediction, and 2024, I have no idea. And I don't even know I can't even imagine what would it mean if Trump does get another term. He didn't leave off in a great place. His final year in office was not encouraging, you know, so he's going to pick up where he left off, or is he going to pick up in his first day in office when he did a bunch of great things?
Yeah, I can't help but think there's kind of a weird synchronicity that the Mario Brothers movie is out this week, because the original Mario Brothers movie, you know, at least for the people that are old enough to vote, are going to remember. Yeah, it's the Easy Rider Trump, and it's just, he's got the Trump Tower, and there's this whole underground, and there's reptilians, there's mammalians, and then there's this mycelial fungal kingdom that runs it all.
Kingdom
that we're all connected through. I mean, it seems like there's something to this, but they definitely present Trump as the bad guy over and over again throughout these movies. Like, we're kind of bombarded with that, oh yeah, he's the villain. He's this big Trump-like character. You know, that's why did they set that up along the way?
One guess would be that they, you know, have spent so many generations thinking through how to control people. They're like, these are the questions they'll have, and these are how to assuage their concerns. These are the signs we can give them that'll make them think something for sure, you know, and then when something deviates from that and they don't get what they expected, we have this story to explain that. So it's like, there's stories and explanations for Trump's last year in office, you know, and most Trump supporters buy into that. There's a bunch of reasons, you know, he's still a good guy. He had to do the vaccine. He had to do this. He had no choice. He got tricked. He hired the wrong people. You know what I mean? There's like all this excuse making. And then you do look at that. It's like, well, why would they kick him off TV? Why would they persecute his family? Why are they constantly trying to put him in jail? I don't know. I mean, we've all read 1984. We're familiar with O'Brien. You know, they can do a multi-layered tricks, as many layers as they think it'll take to get everybody caught. They're like, some people are going to make it through all these layers of deception. We got to make infinite layers. So even the most astute conspiracy theorists are never going to be able to get it straight. I think that's my guess is that's what's going on with Trump. Is he's totally an actor and part of the entire plan, and this is the role, and the planning is more robust than we expected, you know, and stuff is intentionally impossible to explain. How can you explain this? You know, QAnon. How do you explain that? Oh, I can't explain it, you know, but then I don't assume the meaning. To me, it has no meaning. It's just an anomalous thing that happened. I'll gauge by the real world in my life. Am I getting more free, more prosperous, more peaceful, or is it going in a bad direction? And it's been going in a bad direction since we've had Trump. So that's the only thing I can really gauge it by.
Yeah, but it's also hard to say, because while, you know, it's been going bad, a lot of it's because they said, let's sabotage it, right? You had Bill Maher say, let's sabotage the economy on purpose, just to spite Trump, right? And there's a lot of people that worked against it. And it's hard not to acknowledge that there was this over-the-top pandemic that was already kind of going on outside of the United States before Trump, right, to an extent. So what is that? But I don't know. Yeah, it feels
that's
like
my point. Is
definitely-
we can go back and forth with buts, and we'll both be correct. To that I could be like, but Trump is the one who did the CARES Act and printed $6 trillion. But so we could go back and forth, and we're both right, but we just get stuck in confusion. Like, that's the demoralization that the communists employ, that Yuri Bezmenov was working about. Over information, where you start to lose your assurity, basically, that you're ever capable of discerning what's true. And the polar opposite might be true, is another crazy theory. It's like, it might be this or the exact opposite of it. Like, that's like a new conundrum we've never had before, Like, there's only one real world, or we're in a simulation. It's like, oh, that's like a new wrinkle to it. Maybe it's this way, or maybe it's the exact opposite. That's like very confusing and demoralizing.
Yeah, we are getting to a point where it's like it doesn't even matter, because you've just.
I'm going to push through, but I feel demoralized by all the misinformation and disinformation. And talking about Trump is enough to make you go crazy, because you're right. It's like, how do you explain this? Why would they do that? And it's like,
I think it's interesting because it's become a thing where people can be voting for AI, because you're getting to a point where you're like, all right, am I voting for this guy or that guy? I think I'm going to vote for AI.
I would vote for AI.
Yeah, that's where we're headed.
How long from now do you think it's a good idea to vote for AI? I mean, I wouldn't vote for GPT-4.
Well, as soon as it starts offering you money, right? So the Fed, we have a wage growth problem. It's actually crashing. No, I mean, honestly,
I know that's what's so funny. Like, oh shit, that would convince a lot of people. AI wants to give me $2,000 a month. All right, AI, let's go. 4 years.
Zero Hedge seems to have tried to become more clever than me. Was that article Unblocker? I forget the name of the site that does that.
12-foot ladder. 12.
Thank you.
Yeah.
There it is.
Somebody in the chat is saying they want to see Ramaswamy versus Kennedy, RFK Jr.
It didn't do it. 12-foot ladder didn't do it for me.
They've been weak on me for the past couple of days too. I don't know what's going on with them.
One more try. Isn't there like a thing where you type in like mobile or something like that? I forget.
Oh, that's good. I don't know about that one.
Or star.
I don't know what's going on.
I forgot to find it. It doesn't matter. Basically, if you look at like wage crashing, okay, let's show that. It's going down. You just want to see a graph? That's all I'm trying to show you. What am I doing?
See that, everybody? It's going down. All right, we're going down. It's a graph. Get over it. There it is.
I mean,
reality.
The line should be going up.
God, I wish TV was like this more. Like, what do you want? It's a graph. I mean, come on. Stop watching the news. But I bring it up because it's as the inflation rate increases, the wage doesn't increase with it, so therefore it's going down. So we're getting to a point where people are making less and less money, and they're like, "Why am I going to work again?" Like, how many people are standing in front of a fry machine? Are kind of thinking? I don't think how many people are actually in front of a fry machine anymore, because McDonald's has those automated machines. But what jobs are left? How many people are driving people around, Ubering, thinking to themselves, "I can't afford gas in my car"? I think that's where it's actually getting to the point of. And at some point, somebody's going to make the AI system. It'll be the pimp for AI. It'll be like, AI can help you get a better deal, get you a better connection, pick up somebody that's closer to you, get you there another way. And I just want 10%, or whatever. I just want 80%. AI will take. What's AI going to do with money? And I think that's going to be the next major step, is we're going to start seeing people working for AI. And then when people work for AI, then why would you not want to start voting for it?
How would you audit that you're getting the real AI and it's not just the Wizard of Oz typing on a screen?
Well, that's kind of what I think is the point. Is it'll have a pimp, like a human pimp, and that human's going to say, "Oh, I'll let AI help you make a more efficient deal here, and then you have to pay me, right?" And then.
Well, we can clearly see right now that no political candidates are being advised by AI, because certainly they could come up with something better than Kamala Harris speeches. If AI was the vice president, he could do a lot better.
I wonder, can the AI citizen have a bank account? And I wonder, a corporation, right? So if AI started a corporation, can it own shares, and like how can it present shares? And so this becomes an interesting thing, because it would probably have to have some humans representing it in the meantime.
I don't know if I understand why AI needs resources.
I mean, you saw that Animatrix, right?
Yes.
Yeah, but I don't remember it. It was like 25 years ago.
Yeah, so in the Animatrix, it starts out kind of explaining like how we get to the Matrix, where
the history 1 and 2. What was it called? It was a 2-parter. It was very good, but it does go into
I need
this.
to watch this again.
Oh man, they're so well animated too. Oh, what were they?
the
called?
Renaissance, second Renaissance.
Yes, the second Renaissance 1 and 2. Nice, awesome.
Ren AI Science. That's how I have to remember Renaissance, is there's an AI in it. Honestly, all my life.
That's trippy.
So in the Renaissance, you find out that humans. Let's go back further. Basically, humans got to the point where AI was humanoid and practical, taking their jobs. They got really upset. They kicked out AI. A bunch of AI ended up in Baghdad, of all places.
They make their own city. They're like, all right, well, the humans and AI reach a tentative, tense but an accord where they say, all right, AI, we don't want no more of you in our human civilization. They kick AI out and they put it in the middle of the desert. And AI goes, cool, we're good. They explode in innovation and end up outpacing and outpricing human companies and human goods, to the point where humanity is just saying, well, shit, why would we buy this when it costs so much cheaper by AI? AI basically played our system. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I just love those two. Keep going.
No, that's interesting. I mean, that's pretty common theory on what happened with us in Mexico and China and exporting our labor and outpricing ourselves. Yeah, it's pretty interesting.
And here it happens at a species-wide scale, to the point where humanity, AI, is presented as incredibly benevolent.
Well, but humans get jealous and they try to destroy.
Well, we just blow them up. We just go, you know what? No, they try to say, you know what? Why don't we just peacefully just chill out? We'll make your stuff. We'll do what we can do. Obviously, we're going to live by different means. We're machines. But why don't we coexist? And humanity gave him the middle finger. A global UN was like, no, and launched a nuke. And AI was like, oh, you want to play? Okay. And it was just a shame the way the story progresses, to the point where AI basically gets us by our nuts.
AI thinks it's like, okay, humans will not try the first thing, which we learned from humans. You're supposed to try to make a treaty. And if they don't make a treaty, then you have to use force, and then you force a peace treaty. And when you force a peace treaty, the terms are not as good. So the terms are, unconditional surrender of your bodies and your minds, and that you will be used. And also, because by this point they have all the medical records of humanity, they know how to inflict pain as much as to stop pain, right? So they can do anything.
They know how to manipulate us.
It's not that far from like the ancient Buddhist demons story also, or the Hindu story, that there's demons that kind of occulted the world. And it's one of the reasons why we're constantly tempted to move away from elevating self-actualization, like you're saying, or helping others reach a place where they can reach self-actualization. But also the original version of the Matrix, right, Sophia Stewart's version, was that they're all connected in an AI neural link system. They're a processing computer, so using all the human brains to process for the computer more powerfully, instead of just as batteries, because they didn't really need them as batteries. And I think that's kind of more real, right? We're living in a world where most of our days seem kind of synthetic, and that's what the new Matrix is, or the new Matrix 4. You're kind of living in this video game where they're running processes on you, and it's not just that you're a battery, it's that they're running all these sequences of events and processing ways that things can happen, and they're written into soap operas for your life so that you don't wake up, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's very possible that's already happened.
Feels like we're there.
Simulation theory, that's what people are saying.
Yeah, canceled vandalism. El Chapito. What about the 14-year-old El Chapito? Do you guys hear about him?
No, what's the deal with El Chapito?
He killed 8 people, and they were like trying to hunt down this drug dealer, and they were trying to find him, and finally they found this like 14-year-old psychopath, and he's called El Chapito. He's a little El Chapo. And yeah, so basically I think it got to the point where he was taking control of the region, and they're like, this guy's too young. And so then the Chimalhuacan and Nezahualcóyotl city cartels took over his region, but he like took out whoever was in charge of the town before him.
Great pronunciation. I just want to say that. Very nice.
I don't know. think someone would argue against that, but I
you
appreciate it.
you committed to it. Sounded like it had the proper rhythm. Oh yeah.
I do like Huacuodl. But so
See?
the idea that there was already another cartel in charge and that they were killed off by this kid and that he was taking over the region. And so then they moved in to take over the region again because they didn't, and given him the blessing to run the region. And so now all of a sudden they're taking him out. But he had been the youngest cartel lord in at least 30 years or something like that.
14 years old.
Wow, what a crazy story. Sad. It reminds me of the little kid in Robocop too. You know how like the big crime lord is like this like 10-year-old kid.
Oh, that's right.
Kind of reminds me of that.
Dude.
What were you doing at 14? You know, this kid's like, I'm running a drug gang. I run a cartel.
This movie's
What's
so crucial, man. There's so much.
I was
This is
playing
Hunter
Diablo.
Biden before drugs, you know. It's so sad. Do you ever watch Max Headroom? Remember the Max Headroom kid?
Oh,
So,
yeah.
I don't remember the kid, but I remember.
I know, actually, I don't remember the kid either. You mean the show? Okay.
No,
I did watch the show, but I barely remember it.
So there's the movie, and in the movie, what happens is this guy's looking. Yeah, the original
An
version.
ABC show. I thought, oh, there was a movie. You're
I
right.
think the first episode, the
You're
two-parter or
right,
something.
yeah.
But he goes and he's trying to find out what's going on with these hypermercials, which when you sit around watching TV all day and they play 30 minutes of commercials for 3 seconds really quickly, it subliminally gets in you, but it also might cause you to spontaneously combust. So people start exploding, and he's tracking down the story, and they kill the journalist. Or they almost do. I forget if he gets away, but they think he's dead. But then they, in the process, have his whole memory, and so they create Max Headroom from his memory, and it's not quite perfect. And it's not they who's creating it; it's this 12-year-old boy who's this rich son of one of the corporation guys who has this fancy computer, and he builds Max Headroom for them. But yeah, it always seems to come down to like the kid who knows how to run all the machines.
That's so cool.
They did that in the remake of The Predator, the Predator reboot.
The Prey?
No, not that one. The one before that one. Took place in Colorado.
I don't think I saw that one. I don't think I saw either. Last one I saw had Adrian Brody in it.
Oh, that was good. I liked Adrian Brody.
It was an all right way. It was been on the alien planet. Yeah, that was.
Oh, RoboCop. That's my jam.
RoboCop's so good. I mean, this is, I think, another part of the point of RoboCop is to show you how quickly you could lose your humanity, though, because as soon as the neural link happens, how much of you will be in control, and then how much are you influenced by your emotions and your intuitions, which can be subdued or controlled. I think that's something that we should be more scared of, is losing our humanity or losing our intuition.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, the flip side of that is it's also about RoboCop overcoming his programming. At the end of RoboCop 1, he breaks his own protocols, makes a moral choice. So
right,
he is still human. That's right.
You cannot stop it. Was it the
woman? That's an interesting point that you make about ensuring that we hold that as sacred, that we don't lose that. That would be a good thing to explicitly delineate. Hey, look, let's continue on and do this wonderful technological increase, but let us draw the line at losing our intuition, our humanity.
What would we do if we got to a point where like it was indisputable that art is just a combination, like there's no such thing as creativity? I mean, we might learn this soon with AI making art. We might be like, oh, there is no, like, it's not your soul that's like, singing when you make art or something like that. It's just a series of choices, and AI is able to go through all of them really quickly, and you're like, these are all the options of the kind of art that you can make in your life. And you're like, wow, none of it could be something AI couldn't make. And it's like, no.
I think that's what a lot of art was always like. You think of the Renaissance, and you say, I want to have, like, I want that painting.
It's just a what if, by the way. I mean, these are all what ifs. People get mad at me in the chat.
But it's such a 20th century thing for artists to not know what they're getting. It used to be that an artist spent his whole life or her life apprenticing to learn how to do exactly a thing. And so like a sculpture, a chisel, you're measuring, you're getting exact. There's no question what you're going to get. You're making the thing. And people are all surprised. Like, how is it possible they made this look like a veil of marble?
Right,
what the hell else do they do with the last 30 years of their life?
They didn't have TV screens to distract them. What the hell are they going to do?
Yeah. And so then we get to the 20th century and they start kicking Hitler out of art school, and everyone's told that they need to make Dada. And Dada art is not, you can't you can't deliberately do some things, like if you're trying to trick people because you say, okay, eat correctly. And so they come with fork and knife, and then you give them chicken that they're supposed to eat with their fingers. Like, it's this whole other thing than normal art, because you're not looking at a thing and reproducing it in a way that can be understood exactly. Instead, you're trying, and so the first people to do that, you have people that are breaking the rules on purpose, like Picasso, but then you have people that just aren't artistically trained at all, and they're the ones that are able to succeed. You're pushing further. He's an alcoholic, you know, like in a lot of ways. Like he just gets drunk and throws paint at walls. No offense to Pollock, don't get me wrong. He did some training, but a lot of the real artists were shunned. They weren't that interesting to people. Photography came out, so also why would you even care if someone was good at drawing a picture? That's kind of the AI of painters is photography.
Wow.
And then they say, oh, but you know, photography, you can't really do this. So I want that. You know, it's kind of the try to justify the existence of an artist so they can make something that can't be painted. But now you can do that with a computer. So we're stepping back into the realm of where art used to be, which was that I want a painting of my family standing in front of Jesus Christ in this cathedral. You know what I mean? I want him crucified. I want to have the, you know, people with the coat gambling. And then I want to see me and my family next to the apostles. And I'll give you 13,000 galleons or whatever it is. And I want that set up. You know, that's
Galleons. Yeah.
Galleons, sorry. I was like, oh, I knew I'm missing that one up.
Galleons.
Galleons. No, that feels like kind of people probably, which still might work.
Hey, shut up. Yeah, right.
I think that's the thing about art. We're not stepping in, and so the only thing that it's facilitating.
Well, there is
for
still
people,
an artist too. There is still an artist involved in
Right.
all of those creations. A human being and their inspiration to prompt.
Well,
really gonna
okay,
go
no,
for
I
it.
wasn't going to
It's
go
like
there. I
when
think
you're
it's the opposite. It's that there's people buying art. There's always been people that pay artists to make art, and now you
Sure.
don't have to pay very much to the artist. AI might be drawing the thing. You used to commission a painting and say, "I want."
Right.
These people
There's
to
a
paint.
internet service called Paint My Life, which actual human artists will make an oil painting of anything you want. You send them pictures of your family members. I want the dead ones in with the live ones, multiple generations.
Yeah.
I want, and then put us anywhere. You know, you can request whatever you want, but now you can do that with a couple clicks on the internet. So like that whole business is going to be obsolete. But
Well,
like
going to Disneyland, I still want to get a guy to paint my face at Disneyland because I'm curious about how he's going to paint my face. Could be different, you know.
Want that caricature?
Yeah.
Yes.
And I could get a caricature done by an AI, and I do it all the time. But a person who's spent their whole life drawing, you know, you're going to be interested in what they're going to draw, you know, because they're going to have their own style and their own. That's something that's I still think people are unaware. It won't be lost. Is that people are still being interested in your life, and the information that you accrue in your life will probably become.
Well, yeah, you're right. I mean, people, like you said, people still paint even though there's photography.
Yeah. I mean, I'd still rather get a George Bush painting than an AI painting, probably.
Paintings are, I think, very valuable because another human took the time to do them.
Right.
Like it's, when I was in California, this individual artist would come in often to the dispensary shop that I worked at. And at one point said, hey, you know, I really don't have any of what I would normally exchange for what you have available. But I do have these. I do have these paintings that I made. And one of them was of Batman. And I was like, yo, sold, no problem. I got you. So, you know, there was a value exchange there that was totally legal and 100% above board. That still, I think, will hold through any advancement in technology. I think people doing what they are good at is going to have value because other human beings, we're built with mirror neurons to recognize, holy shit, that's cool. Like that, we seek that out in order to imitate it, integrate it, and become even better.
I think it's still always going to be worthwhile to make art, but I think purchasing human art it might become a thing of the past when you can get something that looks exactly the same, at least for visual art, you know. But
I mean, like people are willing to pay so much more for like luxury products from Versace or.
It was painted by a real life human.
Oh,
yeah,
100%.
I'd like to get a cigar rolled by a Cuban child.
Yeah, you could still buy
right.
buggy whips and bespoke shaving kits and stuff. Like if people have the money to afford a thing, you're going to keep making it as long as people have a romantic attachment to it. But I think that's all we're talking about is romantic. Nothing is less romantic.
Value beyond survival is going to be perceived and implemented by significance according to the culture and society that it's a part of.
The machines can't crochet. You know about this? So you can get a sweater, you can knit it, you can do all kinds of cool things with machines. They can do all kinds of textiles, but just this act of the letting go and grabbing back on and slipping by and stuff, for whatever reason, they don't have machines that can do that yet. And I think about that. Like there'd probably be in Portland when AI was getting really big, or just technology in general. Crocheted sweaters were huge. Dudes were wearing crocheted shorts, and it was just there was crochet feety. Do you know about
shorts? That sounds nice.
If you can find the crochet feety, there were people that would like come up on a phone pole and then they would just knit.
Oh, yeah. People do that in Venice. They put sweaters on the trees and stuff.
And you can't get it off because they knit it onto the thing. You're like, oh man, you dirty hippies. Cool. That's awesome. But
now the tree is warm when it's cold outside. Okay,
I think it's cool.
Also,
I agree.
There's also kinds of GMO tomatoes that they are also kinds of bred tomatoes that weren't even before GMO, that were just they were not as good tasting, but they were thicker skin, so robots could pick them up.
So you could make fun of them for a little while, and they would be like, "Whatever, I don't care. Put me in your sandwich." Yeah.
If you had, no splatty tomatoes, but if you had a tomato that was better tasting, but you had to have more people to pick it by hand, then the tomato would cost more. So of course, we've made decisions to have a not as good tasting tomato that is easier to pick because it'll make it a cheaper tomato, which fits in our price range. I think that's also a big thing that we need to look at, is how many of these things have been augmented the wrong way for just the wrong reason.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, especially with food, I'm super careful about that.
What about this lady that they pulled out of a Jeep who was alive? So the police showed up, and there was this Jeep in the water they were trying to pull out of the water.
Was she chilling, or was she trying to get
she was like, oh, I didn't even know. Hi, guys.
Exactly. Yeah.
Here, go ahead, Doug. Pull it up. Here, read this.
It started with a call from a fisherman who said he saw what looked to be a black Jeep virtually submerged in a large lake in Marion County, Texas. Not until later, after the tow truck came, did anyone realize someone was in the vehicle, and they were still alive.
We do not know how long the Jeep was in the water,
Captain Chuck Rogers, an investigator at the Marion County Sheriff's Office, told NPR, and that's just one of the several questions that remain unanswered about the unusual case. After the initial call on Friday morning, it took deputies around 18 minutes. I don't know, guys, what should we do? To reach the scene in Lake of the Pines, which sits between Dallas and Shreveport, Louisiana. Is that right? Louisiana?
Yeah.
It took a little longer for a truck from a nearby wrecker service to arrive. The Jeep was far from shore, about 40 feet out from the water from Woody's camp boat ramp. The fisherman who called the authorities stuck around.
I got nothing better to do.
Using his boat to help a tow truck worker get out to the Jeep and hook up a tow cable, Rogers said.
That's what I said. I didn't know that I could verify it.
It was at the time that they saw the woman inside the Jeep, the captain added. Abruptly, when what began as a salvage job became a rescue. Still haven't heard from the woman. The fisherman and tow truck driver helped get the woman out of the vehicle, pulling her into the fishing boat. Oh, my goodness.
Oh, my gosh. Louisiana. That's crazy, man.
I wish they gave a few more details on what when they found her, like, was she
Deputies
submerged
called an ambulance. The woman's identity has not been released.
Please don't tell anybody. It was such a foolish mistake.
Why don't they tell you she was awake?
She was reported missing.
Oh, that's interesting. I wonder if it was honestly just like hey, look, I slipped. I fell asleep at the wheel. I got into the water. The water.
How the hell do you end up 40 feet out? Like, was she floated all the way?
Must have floated. My question though is, was she unconscious? Was she in water? Like, why was
either
she
that or
alive
incredibly preoccupied with something like TikTok?
Yeah, she's on the phone. She's doom scrolling.
Police couldn't share any more details about the woman or the circumstances.
I'm trying to find out if modern Jeeps are watertight like that. That's pretty cool. I might buy a new one soon.
Yeah, those Jeeps with the soft tops, I never really had much trust in. So that's pretty.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's less watertight for sure.
What if that's all that it is? It's an ad for Jeep.
Yeah.
We'll keep you dry when you're submerged. Jeep.
It's like the National Lampoon Volkswagen ad. If Ted Kennedy drove a Volkswagen, he'd be president today.
Oh,
the older ones remember. Oh, that's sad.
Oh, yeah, I drove right by that Chappaquiddick Bridge a few times.
Oh, and it's just because I feel like it's worth it. We'll cover this. Ukrainian hackers say they have compromised Russian spy who hacked the Democrats in 2016. See, so it's all figured out. It's all solved. Thank God the Democrats found Ukrainian hackers who could hack those Russian Republican hackers. because
2006.
that'll solve it. But is that what I'm hearing? They're saying that Ukrainian hackers. Why are they doing this? Why would they care? Who? What? Why are they trying to break into this Russian hacker on behalf of the FBI? So the FBI, are they involved? Like, are they helping? Are they paying the Ukrainian hackers? Like, what's the deal with this? What do you think?
What is the deal with these Ukrainian hackers?
Everything involving Ukraine is running cover for money laundering, like DNC money laundering, I think, and just DC money laundering more broadly. So I would just assume, Ukrainian hackers, they hacked the evil Russians and found out that Hillary Clinton's innocent. It's like that's like basically the
surprise, right?
Yeah.
It just works out that way. We didn't say that. That's how we found it. Yeah.
Turns out Hunter Biden never even did crack. He's just a great guy.
Telegram cyber resistance said it stolen correspondence from Lieutenant Colonel Sergei Morgachev, who was charged in 2018 with helping organize the hack and leak of emails from the Democratic National Committee and the Clinton campaign. Okay. So, I mean, it's possible. Did you ever, I never really bought into that at all, but do you think that there's anything to this whole, is it even plausible? You think, maybe the Russians are trying to hack the Democrats. Why not?
Layers upon layers upon layers.
Definitely possible. Yeah, that's more, it's just impossible to discern. You can't use your discernment to really even make a good prediction. It's just a multiple choice.
I feel like if you were a hacker and you were in another country and you're trying to hack another government, that makes more sense. You would do it, right? Wouldn't you want to hack another? I'd hack a different governments.
I mean, how easy would it be to plan?
You spread it out. You go from one to another, and you pretend like you're one, and then it's you mix a bag kind of a thing. Okay.
Well, it would also be really easy to fake it because the NSA trains you to pretend that you're from another country when you hack somebody, and you use certain kinds of tools that other people use. So they're like, "Oh, this was probably an Iranian because they use some Iranian tools." Well, it doesn't mean that they are. It just means that they know how to make it look like they're Iranian, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Do you have our training manual?
I do. I think that we might be at a point though where AI is going to help with hackers as well. This is something that in GPT they've been showing. You can just ask it how to do a question, so it'd be really easy to find anything out. If Trump had anything to do with this, I think by now we would have known. I think we wouldn't be dealing with the Stormy Daniels case.
My AI is the best AI. It's the greatest AI. You all love it. You use. Excuse me. Yeah.
Wouldn't we though? Don't you think, or do you think that why are they doing the Stormy case if they have this? What do you think?
I don't know if they're doing it. It could be a rogue DA. I mean, the previous Southern District DA had much closer ties to the administration and was coached not to do it. One, it said they were going to do it, wrote they were going to do it, and then didn't do it. So it could just be a rogue DA this time around, and they're like, "Yo, well, please don't open us up to examination." Possibly.
Amber wants to know if she should be a hacker and artist. The answer is both. Right?
Depends what kind of lifestyle you want.
Naked man stolen school bus, not from Florida. Asian bear meat at the vending machine.
Better
Guy
than
said he had a heart attack and went to hell in 2016. We did the Bud Light thing, didn't we? We talk about Bud Light. We already you can talk about Bud Light if you want. I like it. It's crashing.
Hands off my rotten rice seltzer. God bless America. It's Mexican rice seltzer.
What I heard was that they were trying to isolate their fan base on purpose because they thought they had too conservative a fan base, and they thought that if they did this, it would at very least get rid of people intentionally, and that from there it didn't matter because it'd be easier for BlackRock or Vanguard or somebody to move in. So it's actually a benefit to the corporation if it's picked up at a lower price. And
wow,
yeah, that's hypothetical, I guess.
That sounds like some high level business acumen right there. Yeah.
I would assume it's just they'll, Republicans or the right or conservatives or whatever don't really boycott. I don't really believe that there's widespread boycotts. I understand the stock.
I think that people don't like beer to have values. You know what I mean?
I think people that drink. No offense to any Bud Light drinkers, but I think if you're a Bud Light consumer, you're not making any principled decisions. So why would you ever boycott anything?
Yeah, you're trying to buy the cheapest beer probably if you buy Bud Light in the old days. And that was the thing. And now you're saying Bud Light means something. And so why would you want to drink? You wanted to buy a Miller.
It's always giving you breasts. It will transition you. You were happy with it when it was transitioning you, as long as they don't put a transition person on the can. I mean, I don't really believe there's an organic boycott. I think it's just the stock price dipped because it's in the news.
This guy stopped drinking Bud Light because of rainbow in the can. It's piss beers. Quick warning. Yeah, I mean I don't know. Yeah, and then here's Kid Rock and Bud Light with the drag queen. I mean, I don't know if that's connected. I'm just saying. That's
reactionaries are not role models. You know, that's like very reactionary. I understand you get a lot of clicks that way. You shoot up some beer bottles, your Kid Rock, you know, but it's like,
ooh, yeah. I don't know. Bud Light,
not role models. That's good.
Avoid those beers. I said it before, but Ryan Hops Gebauten.
Right. Yeah, that's funny. You and me both made a post about that at the same time.
Yeah, because, you know, there's a 15th, 16th century beer law, which I'm not like 100% for this. Don't get me wrong. I don't think you should kill people. I don't think you should kill Belgian Trappist monks just because
this law isn't about beer. It's about language. It's about defending the definition of the word, which is so
right.
I like that.
It is also that they say, like, if you go to a beer house, like, that was because the healthiest thing you could get was like a clean ferment. It's in a copper containers. You can bring your growler, which is 64-ounce container, from one town to the town. You could trust it. You could live off it. You could live off beer. If you didn't have food and you went to some town, they had some like 4-day-old rat pie or some like pot pie that's like they've been taking other people's leftovers and putting the leftovers in. You can't trust it because there's no health safety code. You could trust beer, you know. And there were different kinds of beers they were making, and some people had super psychedelic beers. Mm-hmm. Some people had beer that had no hops in it at all. Some people had super high alcohol content. Some people had really low alcohol content. And they said, look, we just want it to be standardized, and that way it's safe. We want to know that it's made with malt hops and water and nothing else. Yeast. But you could also accumulate yeast, because if you had this on your second story of your building and then the windows are open, then the yeast comes in and there's a thin copper rim around the entire floor, and then you clear off the stuff that accumulates at the top. So the Belgians were doing that, and they're like, we don't really need to do it the same way. We also have different plants. We don't necessarily want to use hops. They wanted to use, what was the name of that stuff? There's like a skull cap or a yarrow. There's all different kinds of beers that they did. And they also have wheat beers, right? And they're saying, we don't need to use hops. We could do these wheat beers. And the Germans were like, that's not beer, right? But on one level, that's fair, because they'd gone through situations where people died. But on another level, it's like, well, then what is it? Because it's, it's still something, you know. Guy says that he had a heart attack and went to hell in 2016. Here's what he saw. A priest said he briefly went to hell in 2016. He saw men walking like dogs and heard demons singing Rihanna songs. My God. While many of the most publicized near-death experiences are more positive than this journey to hell, negative NDEs occur. What do you think about this? Because a lot of people think, oh, well, maybe heaven doesn't exist. You're just closing your eyes when you're fading out and you're imagining some nice thing. This guy saw this horrible thing. Do you think there are realms that you think he maybe crossed over, or is this just as a projection about our reality and how horrible it is with Rihanna?
This was a priest. This was a priest who saw this stuff.
Right.
So priest had a heart attack, and he saw. I don't know. I think just as any NDE story has correlation to the individual experiencing that story that we are told, so this one has some correlation to the individual giving us his description as well. I don't know how crazy, how out there do you want to go? Because
go as far as you want. I mean, it sounds like he said that he had a heart attack, and then his body went down to hell, entering the very center of the earth.
I am at the very center of the earth, you guys. It was awful. People were singing Rihanna.
No, I feel terrible.
That would be horrible if the center of the earth is hell. I mean,
Rihanna.
Hell.
Ella.
Anything's possible. I mean,
oh my God, for eternity.
Anything is possible. You know, anything is possible, but who knows? I mean, to me, the idea of heaven is hell as they're described traditionally is preposterous.
You think it's possible that he was at the ambulance and there was music playing? Because he also heard "Don't Worry, Be Happy" by Bobby McFerrin, which, you know, I never associated with Dante's Inferno.
Just to mess with you.
I like that song. Yeah, I mean, if they play that in hell, it's automatically not the worst.
But the dead fish that sings it, maybe it is. Maybe it is, because like he sold out and that was in commercials. So
this is really high level suffering right now.
Yeah, yeah, it's like Hellraiser. Exactly. Don't worry, be happy.
I don't know what to do.
I don't know. I wonder. I would be more interested to hear like a little bit of this priest's backstory. Like, what are his guilt issues? Like, does he have any idea why he would be going to hell?
Yeah,
I mean,
I would be shocked if I had a near death experience and I went to hell or like heaven and there was like babies flying around playing harps and stuff. That would throw me for a loop for sure. That's my guess would be totally different than that, like some sort of like, I don't think a post-death experience.
This is Pastor Gerald Johnson. Just so
this is the guy.
This is the guy. Gerald Johnson.
This is the guy. This is the man.
So I can't be sure what his background is like, or if he did any sins in his life before.
It's weird he's wearing a key and not a cross.
But it's possible, let's see, he's a pastor. Yeah, the key is interesting.
He's a priest, not a pastor. He's Catholic.
Damn Mason.
No, if he can't be Catholic. That doesn't look Catholic to me.
He doesn't have a collar. Yes, but where is his garb? Where's his get up?
It's gotta be some weird thing. He's the blanket, a ministry that helps cover ministry gifts, and lead pastor at a church in Austin. But
pastor, so he's a pastor.
Yeah, he's Protestant. Okay. But I can't see but yeah, so there's more reason why he's heard Rihanna. I can see that. I don't know. Austin.
Yeah, it seems pretty personal to his own experience, but there is a possibility that your afterlife experience could be tailored to your understanding,
I thought you were going to say Taylor Swift and be like, no.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, if you go to like Hindi hell, you're not even going to understand it. You're going to be like, is this purple elephant a good sign or a bad sign? Not
bad. Yeah.
It's terrifying.
You don't have a problem with any of this.
Are these good guys or bad guys? Like, you wouldn't even know.
I mean, we have this idea but that's kind of the waking life question also. Is like, is it just this approximation of symbols that he's going through because he's about to die, so he's passing out, so he has this hallucination really of his life, and he sees where we are in the world, and he sees that we're at this point, and that's what he imagines like the world is going through. Like, why is he seeing men as dogs, and what is that? Is it really that's what it's like in hell, or is it what he's seeing our world is like right now?
I would classify this as a near-death experience, not an afterlife experience. My conception of afterlife experiences they're not human experiences. They're not something a human has wouldn't be able to imagine or communicate to someone else. So this sounds like like when you're dreaming, you have information, you're burning through information way faster than you're awake. Like a dream that seems like a long time takes place really quickly. So probably when you're knocked unconscious or about to die, it's like a very profound dream that you'll never forget because of the significance of what was happening.
My God. Well, guys, we did our 2-hour thing. It's pretty brutal. I appreciate that we talked about these things. Well, I mean, just like, because some of the questions that we're facing are about,
it's heavy sometimes.
Yeah, is Soros right? Or open borders make sense?
Are we going to be run by? Are we voting for AI? Yeah,
we're entertaining some dark thoughts, in order to understand where they go. And I think it's a
midweek madness.
Yeah, it's crazy because it's like it seems so permanent. Whatever I heard that.
Just the hills and valleys of history. You know what I mean? Like sometimes you live your whole lifetime in a valley, but that's your time to be alive. Like the whole idea of, I should have been alive in the 70s or in the 1700s. I would have really thrived then. It's like, but you weren't there. You're not part of that moment. You're part of this moment. So whether or not you consider it to be a hill or a valley in human development, that's the only lifetime.
I feel like I could thrive anytime unless it was like completely underwater, like the whole time.
Even then, grow gills. What's up?
Yeah. If that in 20 years, I'll be able to.
I agree.
Gills.
Yeah, that's funny. So. Like Hemingway said, wherever you go, there you are.
Yeah, we're nearly there. MrDouglas.com with a 3. Make sure you go to MrDouglas.com with a 3. You have to listen to his new Ingo Swann series.
Check out. You can find it's all on YouTube. If you go to YouTube, Mr. Douglas on YouTube, and there should be a link to the playlist in the bottom of this page that you're on right now. But just to get a whisper, a taste, and it's also me interacting with you, discussing certain excerpts that I pull from every chapter. Andreas, you're wonderful for pulling this up. Thank you.
Dude, I read it. I
listened to it. It's
Thank you.
You did? You heard it all the way?
That's awesome.
I just got it on my Audible, and I was going to set it up for my dad to listen to also.
Yes.
So pretty stoked on that. He
Wonderful.
likes audiobooks. So thank you for making that. That's super cool.
My pleasure. Thank you guys for listening. That's great.
I forgot I had it on 2x speed when I started, and I was like, this doesn't sound like Mr. Douglas.
YouTube is blocked? What kind of madness is this?
What is that? I have to fix that. All right. Okay.
It's probably not your fault. It's probably mine. I don't know. Maybe I probably have something going on. Oh, do I have like a block script? I'll deal with it. All right. And then make sure you go to Sats Fen Speech, Dub Club, VBDC on Linktree. You can listen to the Hybrid Love music video, Fundemic music video, Pure Bloods music video, Way Back Home, Hard Roots, I believe. There's a lot of amazing music videos available.
Beautiful tunes. Yes.
Make sure you go to the subscribe button on his YouTube channel.
Please.
All the new ones as they come out.
Yeah. And check out vbdc.store. It's in my link tree if you want to get any of my funny meme shirts or VBDC music merch, mugs, stuff like that. And working on a new album real hard right now. I also wanted to mention, if anyone in the audience likes pro wrestling, I started a pro wrestling review podcast called Rocket Buster Wrestling. You can find that on YouTube also.
That's awesome.
Rocket Buster. I'll have to check that out.
It's going to be a Rocket Buster, baby.
Legit.
Man, I'm looking forward to your summer jams, man. I am looking forward to a
thank
summer
you, bro.
soundtrack. Absolutely. That's going to be fun.
Oh, yeah.
And if you liked Douglas's shirt, make sure you go to where did you find that again? Was it on Xirtus.com or how did
it's underneath all your YouTube videos. There's so many links for all your cool
Oh,
clothing.
that's right. Yeah, buy the thing right on the.
I
You're
want
looking
that.
at it right now.
It's fantastic. Get it,
God.
and you can the color combinations. I'm telling you. I'm telling you about the color
It looks
combinations.
fashion
They're good.
forward, man. It's got
is very
print all the
nice.
way up to the neckline. That's unusual, you know. You could wear that in Italy.
Yeah, that was what I was going for.
Tell me, where did you get the shirt? It's a
You
very
can
nice-
wear
I
that to
want
play
wear it.
like
I
soccer.
will pay you
or something,
€1,000
soccer
right
jersey.
now. Okay, I have to keep in about an hour. I need to look special. You
It
look
reminds me, I
special.
need to send you, Xirtus, the PNG of the Xmas. I meant to send you that. I never sent you the file, so you can
Oh yeah,
sell
legit.
those or give them away this Christmas.
I'll have to give you commission.
Remind me to do
sounds
that
legit.
before.
I also have to send one of the stickers to Adam for his birthday. He loved the sticker. Like I think that's the best shirt. Honestly, it's my favorite.
Dude, just remind me if it comes to Christmas and I didn't do it yet.
All right, man. All right, I love you all. I'll see you next time. Thank you for being here.
Bye, chat.
Happy Wednesday,
Bye,
Ultra.
guys.
Thank you, Chad. Thank you, Andreas.
Thank you, Xirtus.
Peace, guys.
Later, buddy.
Olivia, what? Olivia, you should be on the show.
Yeah,
Hit me
I
up
just
for
saw
next
that.
week.